Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Market Close. It is Monday, April 14th, 3:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and looks like we got a green market. Looks like as we get into the end of the day, we got about, again, 15 minutes left until we close. We're going to close green. It was a really turbulent day starting in the morning where we opened green, like really green. And then Trump talked. He didn't say anything that was like bad, but I think everyone was so afraid of what he was going to say that we went red across the entire market, except Palantir. Palantir stayed green by about 2% throughout the entire day. Palantir right here up about 5.7% right now. And so we kind of tanked, I guess. And then throughout the end of the day, we went green again, and markets are currently higher. It is very encouraging to see different volatile headlines throughout the day not take away the bull trend, that we are at least in a continuous motion from starting from Friday. Friday being a 2% reversal on the S&P 500. Nvidia tried to go back to 115, got rejected. It looks like it's going to end out green for the day, but just barely. Palantir up 5%, Apple up 3%. Apple was at 212 at one point, now it's at 205. The Qs are at least green on the day. You got Google that's green on the day. Grab's going a little bit red. GameStop is green. MP green from the rare earth minerals headline in the context of China. Robinhood is green on the day. So it's not like everything's green, but nothing's necessarily that red from what we saw in the morning. Tesla right here, 255. That's up about 1.07% on the day. Webull continues to gain momentum. At one point, this thing was $79 at the very top of the day. 411% up. Got 13 minutes until we close. I mean, this thing can obviously tank after hours as well, but still in the morning, I think we saw it at 47. If you bought in, it's at 67. So even if you bought it after a 4X, you now had a chance to still make some money off of Webull. Nonetheless, not a bad day. Not a bad day at all in the context of what we're seeing in this market. Good morning, or not good morning, good afternoon. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We are going to get started with a bunch of different headlines. Yeah, this is one of those headlines. VIX under 30 after almost 10 days. It has been a long time since we saw the VIX even get close to these levels. As you can see right here, VIX is down 20% on the day. This is also emblematic of the fact that, yeah, the markets are starting to get a little bit more certainty, even though we kind of don't have the headlines that definitively say we are certain, but we did get a couple that we're going to talk about in a bit that are more encouraging. And so you got VIX right here down 18% on the day, hopefully coming below 30 as we get towards the end of, well, not only today, but also the third trading week of 2025. One quick thing before we get into everything else is bond yield. So these things are coming down really nicely. 10-year right here, 4.378. It's nice to see these bond yields come down. That means people are buying bonds and they're buying stocks today, which is nice. And as they're buying bonds, yields come down. As they're buying stocks, stock prices go up. The US 30-year Treasury, as you can see, 4.807. This thing was, again, 4.95. 4.95 just 2 days ago. So seeing this come down is very encouraging along with the 10-year. Now, one thing that's not that encouraging, and I don't really have an answer for what's going on here. I'm still trying to figure it out. But the 30-year Treasury bond in Japan is at its highest level since 2004. I don't understand why this is happening. America's definitely not selling Japanese bonds, especially because Japan said last week that they're not going to be selling U.S. bonds. Maybe China's selling Japanese bonds theoretically. But as you can see, we haven't had 2.85 on a 30-year bond literally since April of 2004. So it has been a long time, 20 years since we've seen this yield. I don't have a good enough answer for why this is happening right now. Still doing some research here. But yeah, this is not really messing up the markets. It's just really weird because it looks like a meme stock in terms of how much it went higher, which means someone had to sell Japanese bonds. Who sold? We don't really know yet, but I think we'll get more clarity on it as we get into the rest of the day. Now, two updates from Trump. Obviously, we had the big Nvidia deal today, and we had Trump talk about that Nvidia deal. He also talked about Apple. So I want to play these two clips. This is what Trump had to say about Apple today, and then we'll get into what he had to say about Nvidia, and then we'll keep going from there.
Yeah. Yesterday, you mentioned short-lived product exemptions. Which specific products are you considering, and how long is short-lived? Weeks, months?
I'm looking at something to help some of the car companies where they're switching to parts that were made in Canada, Mexico, and other places, and they need a little bit of time.
Which is bullish. He's giving more tariff relief likely to the auto companies, which I think we all thought was going to happen. So now he's kind of confirming that he's most likely going to delay those tariffs as well.
Because they're going to make them here, but they need a little bit of time. So like that.
What about any Apple products, other cell phones?
Look, I'm a very flexible person. I don't change my mind, but I'm flexible. And you have to be. You just can't have a wall and you'll only go. No, sometimes you have to go around it, under it, or above it. There'll be maybe things coming up. I speak to Tim Cook. I helped Tim Cook recently, and that whole business. I don't want to hurt anybody, but the end result is we're going to get to the position of greatness for our country.
So he is flexible on Apple tariffs, which I think we all know because Apple's the biggest company in America. He probably needs to be. And he is going to give auto companies more time to deal with their tariffs. That's relatively bullish. I mean, there's some level of certainty you're getting there to the market. That doesn't mean the market's going to pump like crazy, but it does mean, all right, maybe we don't have to get so aggressive about taking Apple back below 200. We got about 9 minutes until the market closes. S&P is trying to hold on to that 1% for the day. It's not really a super bullish day, again, for the markets, but it's also not super bearish. And it's a bit more of the same of what we got on Friday, which were these ancillary headlines that are good, not great. They're definitely not bad. And slowly by slowly, it's bringing a little bit more money into the market. And more importantly, it's bringing money to the bond market, which is nice to kind of see this play out given all the volatility we've seen over the past couple of weeks. Here is what Trump had to say about Nvidia and their new $500 billion investment for AI supercomputers in the United States.
One of the biggest announcements you'll ever hear, because Nvidia, as you know, controls that almost the entire sector, which is one of the most important sectors in the world between chips and semiconductors and everything else. And they're the biggest. And the other biggest we already have coming in is spending $300 billion, as you know, they announced 2 weeks ago. But Nvidia is so highly respected. And this was an announcement that a lot of people, I knew it was going to happen, but not to the extent that it happened. It's big. And the reason they did it is because of the election on November 5th and because of a thing called tariffs. As I say, the most beautiful word in the dictionary. After love, God, relationship. The press actually hit me and said, tariff.
All right. Sorry about the audio. That's the best audio we got. We didn't get any good streams with really good audio, but essentially what he said is, hey, tariff is one of the most beautiful words in the dictionary. And he also said, and quote, Nvidia would not have done this without the tariffs. So obviously Trump right here is trying to take credit for this Nvidia announcement. Now, again, Nvidia didn't really pump off this, so markets didn't care too much about it. I don't know at this point what the markets really care when it when it comes to Nvidia getting some momentum right here. Maybe it's going to take earnings, maybe it's going to take more announcements, maybe it's going to take ChatGPT saying we're buying 1 billion GPUs or something. But Trump is taking credit, and he said, hey, they wouldn't have done this without the tariffs, which to an extent I believe he's correct around. I mean, if there wasn't that much pressure on Nvidia, they probably wouldn't have done this. What I want to see out of this as an Nvidia shareholder is an exemption from all semiconductor related tariffs, which I think we're going to get regardless, because I don't think Trump wants to handicap the semiconductor companies in the United States. He wants to encourage them to do more onshoring, which is what Nvidia announced today, but I don't think he wants to handicap them with tariffs. And same thing for Apple. And as a result, I honestly think the reason we're going green today, even if it's not a crazy 4 or 5% day, is just the market coming to the conclusion that, hey, maybe this guy is not going to be as aggressive as we thought he was going to be. And as a result, maybe we can get some more momentum on that as we end out the day, and hopefully as we continue to progress in Q2. Palantir, for those that missed the headline today, 5% up on Palantir. It looks like we're in a close green just above that $92 level. The reason I believe we are green on Palantir is because the market is starting to see the momentum in the context of international growth. Now, what's the catalyst for us to get international growth? NATO. So today, Palantir got a deal from NATO. They are acquiring the Maven Smart System program, which is going to be an AI operating system for the entirety of NATO, particularly for the battlefield, which to me is just very exciting. We've been waiting for this deal a long time. A lot of people have been predicting that NATO would eventually come use Palantir, and now they are using it. My analysis of this, after I got a chance to really think about it, is that the companies that, or the countries that have said that we don't want to work with Palantir, for the reason being that we can build whatever Palantir has built ourselves, are NATO countries like France and Germany, many of these European countries. Obviously, they can't build it themselves. They are going to fail miserably. Karp has publicly said many times that you can't simply replicate what Palantir has built, and you definitely can't do that in the bureaucracy that is the government. We're not talking about private companies right here. We're talking about bureaucratic governments that might try to contract private companies, but obviously those companies don't stand a chance when it comes to Palantir. So now that NATO is using an entire AI operating system from Palantir for the battlefield, it begs a simple question. If Palantir is good enough for NATO, why is it not good enough for Germany and France? And that to me leads me to believe it's not going to happen soon. If it does, it would be amazing, but I think it'll take some years. But the S curve that we are seeing in US commercial, that it took about 2 years to get to, 2022 till 2024, I think going into 2026, 2027, we will see an S curve of international growth because Europe will have no choice. They will either adapt or they will miss the entire AI revolution. Today, NATO chose obviously to not miss the revolution. Germany, France, etc. I think they're going to hopefully choose to not miss the revolution either, which just means that we're going to have more momentum on Palantir. And the exciting thing about this is that if we have more international growth in the context of the government business for Palantir, I think that would also bleed into the commercial side internationally, which again has been abysmal in terms of growth. That's why Palantir focuses so much in terms of their storytelling for US commercial, because that is the story right now. Like there is no other story other than US commercial. Now, US commercial is just so amazing. It's what's leading investors to get excited. But if they can tap into international growth on the government and commercial side, it's going to get very exciting. Like very, very exciting. And I think the NATO announcement today is a precursor to what that foundation will be like over the next decade. It's just a question of Palantir being able to execute. Meta right here is down about 2%. We got Apollo that's down 0.21. Reddit's down 2.94. We are selling off into the close just a little. I mean, the S&P went from 1.4 to 0.8. So I guess that's a little bit more than a little, down about 50% from that 345 level. 538 on the S&P. If we end green for the day, I'll be happy, to be honest. In all the midst of this volatility, Apple was at 7% on the day. Now it's up 2%. I still think a green day is not something people would be upset about. Does Soros own Palantir? No, he sold out of Palantir, I think 2 years ago. And I think he sold into the pump in 2021, back when it was going to 45. So he got out of Palantir a while ago. But those that are holding on obviously for Palantir to still be trading at these levels, up 4.5% on the day. Bitcoin right here, 84.6. Again, Michael Saylor did buy about 3,000 more Bitcoin today, so we did have that. Again, I'll be going deeper also into the NATO deal on the daily recap. We're going to bring that back today. And so in a couple hours when that's posted, we'll get even more details there. But that and the Nvidia deal, I think, were the biggest headlines of the day. Nvidia saying, hey, we're going to invest $500 billion in the United States, which I'm still trying to figure out if that's similar to TSM's couple $100 billion they committed. I believe it's completely separate, but I'm just trying to get more details on it to make sure. But that headline, regardless, I think was very important. And then Palantir and this NATO contract also were important. We don't have the exact number on the NATO contract, unfortunately. Hopefully we'll try to get it, but nothing too crazy there. Update on Meta. Yeah, we'll talk about it. The first day of their trial started today, which is why Meta is probably down 2%. I mean, look, I really don't think the FTC is going to break up Meta, just like I don't think they're going to break up Google. But that might be an overhang on the stock. You know, it's funny. Google had to deal with that overhang in all of 2024, and it's still affecting them to this day. Meta, who knows? Maybe they have to deal with that as well. And if it does tank them really badly, I think it'll be a great buying opportunity if that's the reason, as long as they don't get broken up. If they get broken up, that's not going to be the best. But today was day one of that trial to see how it played out. Is Nvidia about to go red on the day? Dude, wow, the last 30 seconds. They couldn't let us get away with the last 30 seconds before selling everything. Yeah, Nvidia's about to go red. But Nvidia's fine. Oh, I did buy some more Nvidia today. I bought like 5 more shares of Nvidia. Nothing crazy. But bought 5 more shares. I think I bought it basically at 109, 110, this price. Nvidia right here, 110.70, down about 0.2%. We got 30 seconds until the close. Palantir holding on to its green. Palantir tried to get to 98 today, just got rejected there. Webull is going to be the biggest outperformer today, 64.41, up 386%. Apparently, I posted on Twitter about Webull, and there's a lot of people that loaded up on it. So there's just a whole host of degens, which is why JPal probably has to raise rates. But if you're in Webull, congrats, because it's had a hell of a run today. All right, here we go. Monday, April 14th, 4 p.m. The stock market is now closed. All right, there we go. Monday is now done. Webull closes out the day up 374%. It is now 70% of Robinhood's market cap. Yeah, there you go. 62.90 on Webull, up 374%, and it's up another 2% after hours. Why not? So there you go. That's Webull, best performer of the day. Tesla was up 0.02%. That was flat, 252 on Tesla. S&P 539. That ended up basically 1% on the day. was up almost 2% at 1.539 on the S&P. I will take it if you give us a 1% day. Palantir right here up 4.6%. Palantir also having a great day. Bitcoin 84.9. Google 159. That's up 1.23. Grab, I don't know why it fell 2% towards the end of the day. Grab at a good acquisition today. I feel like this is more just algos. At this point, I think Grab's going to move after earnings because there's not any like other fundamental headlines to get the stock to move. So earnings, they increase EBITDA guidance. I think that's enough to really get this to start getting momentum because they really did sandbag in Q4. But we're going to have to wait for another month until they have those earnings. Rocket Lab right here was down about 2.5% of the day. Robinhood was up about 1%. Oracle was up 1.7%. Alibaba was up 5.8%. Amazon was down. Makes sense. The China tariffs are still there. Apple might be exempted, but Amazon is not. So Amazon right here, heavy risk with the China tariffs. That's down about 2%. Cisco was up a little bit on the day. Disney was up. VRT and VST. Let's see about those. They were up 5%. They're ending the day up about 2% each for both of them. These will be data center plays that probably get more momentum with Nvidia's $500 billion commitment in the US. So that's good for them. S&P 500 going a little bit red after hours. Apple again up 2% on the day. Not horrible, but it was up 7% at one point. Microsoft went red. Google again up 1.3. Amazon was red. Nvidia closed the day up down 0.2%, and then Tesla basically flat on the day 0.02. In terms of the semiconductor names, they were surging in the morning with Nvidia. AMD still ended the day up 1%. SMCI basically flat. Most of them pretty much flat. TSM was down on the day. Dell was up 4%. Lam Research up 1%. ARM Research up 1%. A lot of them were up 7 to 8% when Nvidia was up 5%. Micron was up 8%. Now it's up 2% to end out the day. And in the context of crypto, pretty much all of them flat as well. MicroStrategy was up a little bit more because of Bitcoin. Everything else in terms of the Bitcoin miners were up about 2 to 3%. Coinbase as well, up about 0.62 currently right now. Katy Perry is not in space. She is back down along with the rest of the crew. They stayed there for 30 seconds and then they came back down. So it was a successful launch. And if you care about space, SpaceX, Rocket Lab, all that stuff, then you're probably happy that that mission was successful. But it was a very short trip up there. I heard what's his name? Bezos spent $50 million on the launch. One of the captions was really funny. It was like Bezos spent $50 million to finally get 30 minutes away from his wife. That was kind of funny to me. But yeah, it seems like it was a pretty expensive launch to prove they could do it, and now they're going to probably have a lot more launches going into the future. All right, so we got a bunch of other headlines to go through as the market is now officially closed. It is not Saratoga season yet. We're not doing it, bro. We're not. We got to make all-time highs on the S&P to bust out the Saratoga, because I know if I do it before and we tank, you guys are going to blame me. Like I know how you guys work. If I get a nice Saratoga, I drink it, we go red the next day 5%, I'm taking all the hits. I'm taking all the hits. All right, I want to get through a couple of charts with some macro data, and then we'll get into all the different headlines that I want to look at. Here's two charts that I think are really important. So this is the first one. Hedge funds, this is from Goldman Sachs, have started selling European stocks at their fastest pace on record for 2 weeks in a row. Now, it was almost 2 weeks ago where I asked everyone the question, and the question was, hey, do we think Europe's a bubble? And the reason I said, do we think Europe's a bubble, is because if everyone was going to Europe simply because they hated the United States, or they thought the tariffs were too intense, or they were really anti-Trump, whatever, and that was the reason why Europe got its fastest inflows in over a decade. I believe it was about $10 billion 2 weeks ago, which was the fastest since 2000. Then how quickly would the fall be, aka the retreat from Europe? Now, some of the European defense contractors like Orion Metal have been doing phenomenally well, but I'm very curious if European equities can keep up the positive momentum that they've kept up, if a lot of this money is just going to end up leaving. So hedge funds right here selling European stocks at their fastest pace on record for 2 weeks in a row, to me is maybe hedge funds saying, you know, Nvidia at 23 times earnings, Google at 15 times earnings, Meta at 22 times earnings. These are the companies we want to be in, not European companies. And as long as the tariffs get walked back, then that might be a reason to go back into the United States. So that could be an argument for what we're seeing in the context of Europe. We do have APLD earnings. I forgot we have that. I will let you guys know once I get those numbers. I don't think they're out yet. Let's see. Are they out? No, they're not out yet. Expected is 62 million in revenue and 10 cents, or losing 10 cents of EPS. This is a small company, dude. The only reason people are interested in this is because NVIDIA invested in them. And does NVIDIA still hold their stake, or did they? Yeah, it's $1 billion company. I think NVIDIA still holds their stake, but I will get the numbers for Applied Digital once that comes out. Okay, and then the other stat I wanted to show everyone is this. So this is why people are still afraid of the market. This is also from Goldman Sachs. The blue line right here that's dotted is with tariffs, and the gray line is with no tariffs. With no tariffs by December 2026, Goldman Sachs thinks that we get to 2% inflation. So in about a year and a half. If you do have tariffs, then we're still under 2.5, but we do have an elevated level of inflation. And so one of the reasons I think the market is not surging back to its current levels is because until we get clarification on how much the tariff volatility is going to affect the overarching perception of equities, aka, are we actually going to have 10% tariffs across the board, which I'm still skeptical of. I think if we get some good deals, that 10% becomes 5%, and the market really runs on that news, because then the overall adjusted inflation rate or tariff rate goes down from like 20% probably to 10% across the entire board. That would be super bullish. Applied Digital right here down about 2.2%, after hours now down about 4%. So I think one of the main arguments I heard from a lot of these sell side research reports today is that we still think that the tariff imposing by Trump is going to create so much more inflation than is what needed, which is why the Fed is going to be waiting a long time to cut rates, which is fine. It's just, what if Trump takes back a lot of the tariffs because we get some good deals? I mean, like, no one knows, right? It's very unpredictable. Webull, by the way, up another 9% after hours, 68.47. But I think that is one of the biggest concerns across a lot of different market participants right now. Is just like, how long is the tariff inflation going to last? So we don't have the numbers for APLD yet. It is down, but I don't think it's moving off numbers. I think it's just down because it's down. What if he keeps them? Well, if he keeps them, then a lot of these analysts are going to be right that inflation is probably going to be more aggressive. Maybe, right? Like, there's a lot of debate on how inflationary tariffs are. But if there is any level of meaningful inflation that takes away the progress from CPI, PPI, yeah, the Fed just might not cut rates as easily as we need them to, which is the issue. Here are Applied Digital earnings, missed by 60% on EPS, negative 16 cents versus negative 10 cents expected. And then revenue, 52.92 million versus 62.9 million. They missed by 16% when it comes to revenue. Applied Digital stock is now down 2%. Nothing too crazy for a 60 cent or 60% miss on EPS. I mean, only down 2% is actually not too bad. So that's what we got for Applied Digital. Again, it's a small company, $1 billion market cap. I think Nvidia still has their stake in them. I don't even know exactly what they do. I think they're in the semiconductor space. Now now it's dumping. There you go. Now it's down 6%. A little bit of a delayed reaction, but there you go. So what happens with small caps? They miss their numbers. They're going to get hit, but that's why you have to have some type of a long-term thesis on what it looks like. You guys saying Palantir just confirmed their earnings? Did they? Palantir earnings Q1. Oh, yep. Here we go. We got it. Palantir announces date of first quarter 2025 earnings, May 5th, baby. We got it. May 5th, following the close of the U.S. markets. Dude, I just got goosebumps. Every time we have Palantir earnings again, I get goosebumps, because it's such a dude, it's just like, it's such a big thing, from following the company from so long ago. Now it's like really entering its prime. And every 90 days, you get another chance to see how much they are progressing. And the cool thing is, I really think they're progressing very nicely. Oh, it's Cinco de Mayo. Wow. Cinco de Mayo. I hate this holiday because it has mayo at the end of it, but still, amazing holiday. Shout out to the Mexicans, bro. Here we go. May 5th. All right. So if you have a date on May 5th, cancel it. If you have a business meeting, cancel it. In fact, everyone should just try to call in sick and stay home from work, because I'll probably be covering earnings for many hours before we get into earnings. May 5th, 3:30 p.m., we will start the stream, maybe even earlier than that, and make sure it's booked on your calendar. So here we go. Palantir, May 5th. I like that they announced it today too, because today was one of the biggest deals. And Karp's going to talk about this NATO contract. Karp's going to reference, hey, Germany, France, NATO's using us. You probably got to start reconsidering your stance on software. By the way, some parts of Germany are using Palantir, like the state of Bavaria with the policing stuff, but it's just very small locations. It's like not a widely adopted thing throughout the entire government. And once that happens, there's just a lot of money to be made when it comes to Palantir. It's a hint that they are beating. What are the analyst expectations? Let me check real quick. I actually don't know what the analysts are projecting. I think we're gonna grow at least 32 to 34 is my guess percent. Last time we did 36%. I think this is a quarter where it's going to be pretty good. Earnings, the market wants 872 million. And they want 13 cents a share of EPS, 872 million. Okay, so last time Palantir Q1 2024, how much revenue we did? We did what was it, right? It was like 650 or something. Let me get the exact number. Q1 revenue in 2024 was 335 plus 335 plus 299. We did 634 million. Okay, so the market wants 827. So 827 minus 634 divided by 634. So the market's expecting 30% growth. That's what the market's expecting, 30% growth. Amit, do you see Palantir at 150 by end of year? No, I think that's a bit too aggressive. But do I think we can get back to 100? Yeah, and if we really show momentum, 125, again, that's an aggressive multiple. But if we're growing 45, 50%, which maybe there's a world that happens, then yes. But I think 150 is aggressive. Now, granted, if we enter a crazy bull market, yeah, but 150 would be very, very high for Palantir. I mean, and a couple of weeks ago, I think all of us would be happy if we closed at like 85 for the end of the year. Maybe market expectations have changed, but I still think we have to be level-headed in terms of what Palantir reports, unless they show some really crazy growth. So the market's expecting 30%. I think they're going to do on the baseline 32, which means I'm expecting closer to 850 million. The market's expecting 827. Palantir shows up with $1 billion in revenue, dude. Holy crap. It would be crazy. It would be absolutely crazy. Let's see if it can happen. But I'm excited. Again, I don't want to get too euphoric, dude. Like anything could happen. Multiple on Palantir is still very high. But again, the multiple is high. I keep saying this, but it's been sustained in the midst of all this volatility because 65 is also a pretty high multiple as well. So it's becoming one of those things where this might just be a stock that is expensive forever. I know a lot of people have theorized that this thing deserves to go back to 40. Could it happen? Sure, but it is. And when you get deals like when the quality of deals that this company is getting, it's really hard for someone to sell their stock when they see these types of deals, dude. It's just like really difficult. These are massive, massive deals that are entire enterprise or government level contracts that are likely going to be extended for many, many years. And that's juicy, reoccurring 82% gross margin revenue. And all they have to do is keep building on top of it, which gets very, very exciting for Palantir. Okay, cool. So I showed you guys two of the macro stocks or macro charts from Goldman Sachs in the context of European outflows and in the context of inflation picking up. Here's a couple other things that we have to get into in terms of some headlines. So first, Apple. We talked a little bit about Apple and Tim Cook or Trump basically saying, hey, I'm going to give Tim Cook a break, technically saying that. We got a new update on AI. So Bloomberg said today, Apple will begin analyzing data on customer devices in a bid to improve its AI platform, a move designed to safeguard user information while still helping it catch up to AI rivals. Apple today typically trains AI models using synthetic data, information that's meant to mimic real-world data. The technology works like this. It takes the synthetic data that Apple's created and compares it to a recent sample of user emails within the iPhone, iPad, Mac, and email app. By using actual emails to check the fake inputs, Apple can then determine which items within its synthetic data set are almost in line with the real-world messages. Kind of reminds me of NVIDIA's Cosmos synthetic real data platform, where they're using to train on robotics and cars. Obviously, Apple's trying to do this for a personalized device like emails. But nonetheless, it is nice to see a bit of an update from Apple in the context of meaningfully synthesizing and then training on AI models. Now, I agree with Uzi right here. They should have been doing this years ago. So it's kind of one of those things where it's like, okay, cool that they're doing this, but Siri has been delayed indefinitely, at least the AI version of Siri. And so until we get that, don't know how exciting the market's going to be for Apple getting a multiple. Now, in terms of companies that are executing aggressively with AI, Sam Altman right here with OpenAI tweeted today, GPT 4.1 and Mini and Nano are now available in the API. These models are great at coding, instruction following, and long context to the tune of 1 million tokens. Benchmarks are strong, but we focus on real-world utility, and developers seem very happy. GPT 4.1 is API only. What's really good about this is now all the GPT wrappers that have been waiting for 4.1 and been waiting for larger context windows to be able to use API calls for their coding apps or for whatever other different AI products they're building, they now have access to a brand new OpenAI model that we're getting right here. So OpenAI really kicking everyone's ass in terms of AI updates for their foundation model. Siri still very far behind in terms of getting any meaningful updates. Now, I showed you guys a Goldman Sachs chart that said, hey, if tariffs persist, inflation's going to be worse than expected. We did have some Fed presidents, including Christopher Waller today, speak about inflation and tariffs, and they were actually a little dovish. Here's what they had to say.
I think that's the gist I got, was that they're ready to cut if they can, and they think, at least Waller does, that inflation's not going to be, or the tariffs are not going to be a reason why they can't.
Yeah, I'm going to call it the any which way you can Waller cutting scenario. He did raise some hopes of rate cuts, Scott, saying he's thinking about a small and a large tariff scenario and sees rate cuts likely under both scenarios. Here's his large tariff scenario where the 25% average tariff remains, which is kind of where we are now. He said he would expect the economy to slow significantly. Peak inflation would be 5%, unemployment around 5%, maybe greater, but rate cuts could come sooner in that scenario. Now, let's look at the smaller tariff scenario, which he says could be around 10%. Peak inflation would be around 3%. It still have a negative impact on growth and employment, and rate cuts could be on the table for the latter half of 2025.
So Waller's saying, hey, we think we can cut towards the end of the year. And he also said, I think that the tariff inflation will be transitory, assuming the 10% average tariff. I still have a hunch that if we get some really good deals, and we have an update on Bessent that we'll talk about in a second, that 10% goes down to 5% or maybe even lower. And if that's the case, I think markets would really be happy. The question is if we can actually get the average tariff rate to come down.
He called the new tariff policies, quote, one of the biggest shocks to affect the U.S. economy in many decades. The key to the idea that they could cut, keeping inflation expectations under control. We got some news on that real quickly. The New York Fed's Consumer Expectation Survey today. Now, note, this is taken before the latest tariff announcement ended March 31st. You can see there the survey. Big jump in the 1 year, but the 3 and the 5 year are pretty much are well contained. Not true for the University of Michigan survey taken later, which showed that big spike. The survey found average Americans more worried about unemployment than they have been since the pandemic. And then here are the probabilities, Scott, for your conversation there. Looking at a first cut in June, a second cut in July, and a third cut come October at 63%. I don't know, Scott, if Waller kind of disagrees with Powell, maybe more on the outlook and the idea that he's much more confident that the tariff impulse will be a one-time inflationary effect.
So you do have some Fed presidents saying, we think it's going to be all right. We think it's going to be all right. And obviously no one knows if it's going to be okay, but there's just the feeling I have that these tariffs are all negotiable. And even the way Trump was talking today at the press conference, I'm a flexible guy. Right? Like we've known throughout his entire life, it's always never been exactly what he says it is, for good or for worse. And if we assume that in the context of tariffs, I mean, I think we're going to get some deals soon. And those deals hopefully will be productive for the broader market. Now, speaking of deals, this is what the Wall Street Journal reported today. Bessent is focusing on securing trade deals with the UK, Australia, South Korea, India, and Japan. Bessent has already initiated contact with these nations' officials. That was confirmed today. And NEC Director Kevin Hassett noted that over 10 countries have presented amazing, quote unquote, trade proposals. So again, if they are planning to just roll out deal after deal after deal, I think the market will like it, but it's going to be a lot of talk with no substance unless the corresponding byproduct of all these deals is that 10% tariff comes down. And if it does, I think markets rip. I think they're going to be so happy that this tariff rate is coming down. If we don't get the tariff rate to come down, then, we really have to get some absolutely incredible deal that is just like, wow, the US really won this negotiation. But the real win is if we get some deals and the tariff rates come down and, hopefully countries commit to be buying more stuff from US companies, whatever it may be. But the tariff rate coming down could be a very, very strong mechanism for the markets to go higher. Nvidia right here is down a bit after hours. Vertiv's down 1%. S&P is down about 1/3%. So we are seeing a little bit of red after hours. Bitcoin right here, 84.3. Webull, of course, is up 4% after hours. Palantir is down 0.5%. Pretty much everything getting sold across the board after hours. Same thing with Robinhood. This looks very algorithmic, given literally everything's down about 0.5%. No headline that I'm seeing that would cause this, but we do have a little bit of selling after hours. Yes, the Palantir Q&A is open now on Robinhood. What question would you ask? If you had to ask a question on the earnings, what would you ask? One of the questions that I really wanted to ask 2 quarters ago was international growth. And now with this NATO contract, I think Karp's already going to address that in his opening speech around how the international community is eventually going to come together to recognize that this is a revolution that they can't lose. And it seems like that's going to be the main focus to me of this earnings, is just getting people to realize, hey, U.S. commercial, because the U.S. commercial story is old now. It's good, but it's not like they can get the market excited about U.S. commercial. Like the market's very excited to give them the multiple that Palantir's getting. Now that we've got to have different things that people get excited for, and I think that has to be international. I think that has to be international. So May 5th, Q1, that will be the earnings again, 827 million. That is the expectations. May 5th officially was confirmed today. When dividend? Yeah, that's the most important question. These are some funny questions. Oh yeah, guys, by the way, if you're in the United States, and I didn't even know this was a thing, bro. I didn't know this was a freaking thing. But if you have sold cocaine illegally, especially if you sold it to someone who needs to take the substance every morning before doing the market open to get energy, make sure to file your taxes and tell the IRS that you obtained income from illegal activities, such as money from dealing drugs. Dude, I thought this was a joke today when I saw this. Like what? Yeah, I sold cocaine. I'm gonna tell the IRS that I sold. Like, what? What is this, bro? It's a real thing. As we went on the website, it's a real thing. By the way, I already paid my taxes last month. My CPA emailed me last week, and he said, hey, there's a form that I forgot to ask you. You need to submit it. I submitted it to him, and he said, all right, we don't have the official confirmation yet, but you might have to pay an extra $3,000. So I still have probably another $3,000 to pay in taxes after paying a decent chunk already in March. But yeah, if you've ever done any illegal activities, feel free to make sure that the IRS knows. Like, what type of what is this, bro? Like, who is actually going to report illegal activities to the IRS? Like, when they talk about reforming the tax code, this is the type of stuff that, like, just realize you're never going to get those taxes. So why would it even, say it? Like, it's I guess there's a formality they need to have it there, but yeah, I don't think any drug dealers will be reporting their taxes here. Get a new CPA. No, it wasn't his fault, dude. There was a healthcare form that he submitted my returns, but it got rejected because they needed this healthcare form from a year and a half ago. So I had to get the form and send it. It wasn't really his fault. It was one extra thing the IRS needed. But yeah, it does look like I have a little bit more taxes to pay. That's another thing in terms of selling pressure as well, right? Like this week is the week where, I mean, literally today is the day where everyone has to pay their taxes, or tomorrow. I mean, some people delay their taxes, but more likely than not, most people are paying this week. So the fact that the market's actually held up today, we were up 1%, even though it's kind of dumping after hours right here. Not too bad, because there's probably a ton of selling that had to be done for people to cover a decent chunk of taxes that they had to pay. S&P 500 right here, down about 0.5%. Yeah, 1095A. I had to send in this form. This was the form that I was missing. So that's what I had to do. Do you have Obamacare? No, not anymore. But I did a year ago because I was under my mom's insurance, like until you were 26. So now I have my own insurance. But if you were under like a parent's insurance, then that's like a form apparently that you had to submit, which I didn't. So yeah, it looks like I'll be sending some more money to Uncle Sam. But the fact that markets are holding up with a lot of selling that probably had to happen today and tomorrow to pay taxes is not too discouraging to see. Palantir right here, down about 0.5%. Currently, right now, after hours. Is Coke now tax deductible? Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Do your own taxes. I don't love this idea of doing your own taxes, dude. I actually like talking to someone, especially when it comes to maximizing deductions. It's always nice to actually talk to someone who knows what they're doing and figure out how much you can deduct. Like what did I pay? I paid $375 to my guy to do my tax. Like $375 is not a lot to make sure you have enough mental clarity to like really maximize the value of your taxes. I know TurboTax is out there and everything, but I've just always had someone kind of do it for me and really help me when it comes to the advice around it as well. I consulted Grok with my LC. Now, I did ask AI for help back in March as well. I mean, again, AI, it's so funny. Grok will now have a disclaimer saying this is not financial advice, but Grok gives excellent financial advice. But then you actually need like a real person to confirm it. Okay, semis. So let's listen to Stacy. This is one of Bernstein's best analysts in the context of semis and in particular Nvidia. Let's get his update on what he thinks is going on with Nvidia, especially after this deal that we just got. And then we will keep going from there.
How are you thinking about all of this? What may be today might not be tomorrow. How do you model against that?
Well, that's the thing. It's hard to model because, frankly, I don't know what the policy is going to be tomorrow or next week or next month or next year. It's going to be very interesting, not just for me, but also for the companies. You know, earnings season starts kind of this week and gets going next week. And there's big questions like, how are these companies going to guide? And
do you think they are? I mean, how can they?
I mean, it depends on the company, you know, but yeah, I think we probably want them to say something, but they probably don't have very much visibility at all. And it's actually really interesting when you think about some of the whipsaw on the policies. I mean, I could argue that it might even drive upside in the near term as companies go and try to stockpile in front of potential tariffs that they may get. But if you see upside because of stockpiling, like nobody's going to pay for that, right? It brings risk into the back half. And frankly, you're talking about all this manufacturing kind of moving around. Nobody.
For everyone asking why the market's down, I'm trying to get the answer for you guys. Everything's down almost 1%. Let me see if I can find the headlines. But right now, I don't see any of the headlines to explain what's going on. But I think it's got to be something. It's either algos or it's got to be something because everything right here is down about 1%.
Nobody really knows how this is going to end up. So it's just a big hot mess for everybody right now, myself included.
The president's saying that the tariffs on imported semiconductor chips are coming soon.
Yeah.
I mean, imported semiconductor chips, like everything.
Yeah. The direct impact, as long as they leave it just on the semis, is probably not that big. And we can talk about some other ways it could be. But the U.S. only imported last year about $45 billion of, call it like raw semiconductors into the U.S. And that's not a trivial amount, but it's not a massive amount. Again, most semiconductors enter the country inside other things like smartphones.
Oh, I think we got the update. Hold on. I think we got the update. I don't know if this is enough to get the market. Let's see. This is the update. This is what it seems like is the breaking news right here. Hold on.
Megan Casella has those for us. Megan.
Hey, David, the president and the administration has been saying that this could be coming today, and now it's official. The Commerce Department is officially launching 2 new national security investigations. They'll be examining imports of both pharmaceuticals and semiconductors to see whether imports might threaten national security. Now, as we've been talking about, this is just the first step. They'll be looking at things like current levels of demand for these products, current domestic levels of production, where most of the supply chain is, and then making a determination ultimately in this report that, again, could take up to 9 months to come, that would say whether or not imports of these products threaten national security. If they find that they do, then they can impose tariffs. 2 details to flag here. In both investigations, they say they're launching a 21-day comment period. So 3 weeks from tomorrow, companies and industry and anyone else who wants to will be able to submit comments saying yes or no, I do want tariffs, or I don't for whatever reason. That's fairly short, just 3 weeks. That, again, is one indication that they want to move quickly. The other thing I'd flag is, as we've been talking about for semiconductors, they do lay out in this formal notice that it's not just the semiconductors themselves that they'll be looking at, but also upstream and downstream, things like wafers and legacy chips, leading edge, all the different types. And then downstream, also products that contain semiconductors, such as those, they say, that make up the electronics supply chain. So again, could be much bigger than tariffs just on pharmaceuticals and semiconductors, could be a little bit broader than that. David?
But Megan, in 9 months, or let's say if it takes 9 months, I mean, the world could be a very different place as well. So very difficult to understand exactly.
This is weird, bro. A 9-month investigation around if Singapore is smuggling chips, essentially. I mean, I can understand why markets are dumping after hours, but I don't know how much of an implication this will have on like the next year's worth of stock prices.
What the landscape will look like then, when and if they come to some conclusions.
That's right. It's sort of up to the Commerce Department entirely. That's how the statute is written. But we do know, as I said earlier, that officials have been laying the groundwork already, so they could move quite quickly. I would also say the Trump administration has been known to lean on past investigations to sort of impose new tariffs. The steel, aluminum, and auto tariffs that we have in place now that were just increased in the last couple of months all of those were based on national security investigations done in the first term. These items at least will get a fresh look. We'll see what the world looks like and whether or not they decide to impose tariffs after that.
All right, Megan, thank you. Megan Casella in D.C. Who knows?
This feels like a dumb reason for markets to be afraid. Also, didn't we know this already? They said they were going to do this. They said they were going to investigate around pharma and semiconductors. Applied Digital, by the way, down 9%. That one getting hit badly. But they said they were going to do this. This feels a little aggressive. I mean, this feels like it'll be washed up by tomorrow. But yeah, everything. Q's, S&P, Meta, Googs, Trade Desk, Grab is flat. Rocket Lab, MicroStrategy, Palantir is down almost 1%. Robinhood down 0.5%. I mean, the algos found a piece of news to be upset about, and they're dumping based on that. Bessent is speaking. Where is Bessent speaking? You guys are saying Bessent speaking. Is he on Fox Business? I don't see him speaking. Is he on CNN? Let me see. Where is Bessent? No, I don't see him anywhere unless it's Fox Business. Oh, let me see. Is this him? No, he's not on Fox Business either. Where the hell is he speaking? My covered calls on Nvidia needed this. Yeah, dude, 119. Seems like we should be okay. Who knows? Anything could happen in the next couple of days. No, Bessent's not live. Where is he speaking? I don't see this guy speaking anywhere. Bloomberg Business. Oh, hold on. I can get that, I think. I can get that. Can I get that? Yeah, I have it. All right, here we go. Bloomberg, Bessent, he's talking.
May 2026. So we're almost 12 months out from that. When are you going to start to think about, have these discussions with the president about who should lead the Fed?
Well, we think about it all the time. I think when are we going to start the interviewing candidates? And that'll be sometime in the fall.
In the fall, so about 6 months lead time.
Yep.
The U.S. Supreme Court recently came out with a ruling that the executive branch, the president for now, could oust top officials at independent agencies. And that has some individuals in the market a little bit concerned about what this could mean for the independence of the Fed, which is really a cherished pillar of wanting to invest in America. Do you have any concern about potentially President Trump ousting Fed Chair Jay Powell or the independence of the Fed?
Well, and Marie, I've repeatedly said the Fed has two duties. And I believe that monetary policy is a jewel box that's got to be preserved. And then they have regulatory policies. And I think we can have more of a discussion because the Fed is one among three bank regulators. And there's the Fed, controller of the currency, and the FDIC. So I think it's very easy to delineate between those two.
So at the moment, no concern.
No concern.
When you talk to Fed Chair Jay Powell, at the moment, it doesn't sound like they feel like the need to step in on this unraveling we saw last week with the bond market. Does the Treasury have any plans to do something if this was to become more unnerving?
Well, look, the Treasury has lots of things we can do, and but again, I think we're a long way from that.
But all options would be on the table.
Sure. But again, we have a big toolkit that we can roll out. We do regular off-the-run buybacks. We could up the buybacks if we wanted. So.
Just finally, I want to get your thoughts on something you told me, John, and Lisa in February, which was that in your old world, you would be that person with your ear against the door, trying to understand what policymakers were doing, so then you could predict where financial markets would go. In this moment where we hear from top executives constantly, today it was the Goldman Sachs CEO, last week it was JB Diamond, and there's uncertainty, especially around tariff policy. What advice would you be giving to your old self?
To look at the whole policy, because again, not you, but others in the media can pick one factor. So right now it's tariff, but we have You mentioned we have tax coming up. We have deregulation. So it's a the leg stool, and I would try to think about what's happening. The tariff sequencing was always going to be first. The tax bill's going very well, and I think I've been pleasantly surprised at how quickly that's moving along. And then deregulation from our area on the financial side and in the rest of the economy, that takes a little longer, but that will start kicking in September, October, in the fall, and those are going to be very powerful.
I believe you described as a three-leg tool, and right now everyone is focused on one part of that leg, and that's the tariffs, as you say. But when it comes to the tax cuts, right now, what the market is expecting and what could get done in Congress based on how slim the majority is for the Republicans is just an extension of current policy.
I think that's wrong. I think that the underreported story in the media, the story that's fun to report, doesn't get reported enough, is the Democratic chaos, but the underreported story is remarkable Republican unity led by President Trump. Speaker Johnson, on first try, got instructions out of the House for the budget. He passed a clean CR first try. Leader Thune pinged it back to the House very quickly with their instructions. And I had something along with Kevin Hassett, had an NEC chair called the Big Six, which also includes Leader Thune, Speaker Johnson, Senator Crapo, Committee Chair Jason Smith. And everyone's very aligned, and there's going to be a lot more bells and whistles other than just changing the date on TCJA.
So your pitch right now to financial market participants, to consumers, is you need to see the entire picture.
You need to see the entire picture, and as President Trump said the other day, stay cool. It was my message when I was out with you on April 2nd. It was to the countries. These are maximum rates. So you ask if it was a maximal strategy. If you don't elevate, this is your maximum rate. So don't elevate. You have, in markets, the upside barrier. You don't have unlimited risk. And then come to us, and we will negotiate in good faith.
Can you guarantee clarity in 90 days?
I think clarity is through the eye of the beholder, but I can guarantee you that we're going to run a robust process. And I think the market can take great comfort in that.
So maybe some of that uncertainty starting to evaporate.
Yeah, if we measure uncertainty by the VIX, I think that the VIX, I don't want to make market calls, but I think that the VIX spiked and is likely peaked.
Secretary Bessent, we really appreciate your time. Of course, that was Scott Bessent, the U.S. Treasury Secretary here in Buenos Aires.
Wow. What an end of a statement. I think the VIX has peaked. I think the VIX has peaked. Huh. I don't want to make market calls, but I think the VIX has peaked. Bullish. See, I can hit the falsetto. You guys don't know. I can hit the falsetto. Again, I was going to be a singer. I decided to do stock market commentary, but I can hit the falsetto. The VIX peaking, I feel like markets should be getting a little bit of a green candle on that. Just a slight green one on the S&P from 0.48 to 0.3. Again, Bessent is not the end-all, be-all. By the way, I like Bessent. I feel like he's very calm and cool. He's not super aggressive. Like Lutnick's like kind of all in your face all the time. But like Bessent, I feel like is just more chill guy. VIX right now, after hours, down a little bit. It was down 17% on the day, 30.89. But I think there's a world in which maybe the market likes that. Yeah, S&P is recovering a little bit. I mean, it was down about a half. Now it's down 0.26. Now, what does he mean by the VIX has peaked? Essentially, he's saying that the volatility in the markets, which is what's caused the VIX to be over 50, and I think he even said VIX over 50 or something. Like it's just too aggressive. And so the question was, in 90 days, will we have clarity? Or she said, can you guarantee clarity? He said, he didn't say I can guarantee clarity, but by him saying I think the VIX has peaked, that's him basically saying there's going to be enough market momentum or enough clarity around the tariff policy within the next 3 months to be able to take down the nature of the volatility. I like that, dude. I mean, again, he could be wrong about this, but the fact that he said he thinks the VIX has peaked, he didn't want to make a market call, but he made a market call. He made a market call. He said the VIX has peaked, which is true. Yeah, maybe he can tell us if TLT has bottomed, but there you go. All right, so if you're just joining, the reason markets are red is because there is going to be a 9-month investigation into tariffs and pharmaceuticals. The market already knew about this, so I don't know why it's tanking on this, but that is the headline for why we're red. But you got Bessent saying, I think volatility has peaked, which means, the implication of that is you buy stocks, right? As volatility comes down, equities aren't guaranteed to go up, but any piece of good news likely takes some of these really oversold names higher. And again, when I say oversold, it's assuming that we don't get a recession and we assume earnings are solid. If we assume earnings get hit and that 11% year-over-year growth goes down to like 3 or 4%, then yes, stocks are too expensive. Like, it's just that simple. Stocks are too expensive if you think earnings growth goes from the projected 11% to like 2% or goes flat. If it goes from 11% to 7.5, 8%, I mean, like, you can't say stocks are aggressively expensive. But if you do some quick math and earnings growth goes flat, I mean, like, fair value for the S&P is close to 5,000, to be honest. So we did get a good earnings from Goldman Sachs today. Last week we got BlackRock, Morgan Stanley, all those guys give us good earnings. If tech can follow through, which again, this is what we're looking at this week in the context of tech, then maybe it's not that bad of an earnings season. So we have J&J tomorrow, Bank of America, Citigroup. I think Bank of America, Citigroup are going to crush it just because the rest of the banks crushed it. IBKR will be a hint on what's going to happen with Robinhood. United Airlines will be a hint on consumer demand. Johnson & Johnson, that'll be important for pharmaceuticals. Then we have ASML on Wednesday. That's a big one. Kinder Morgan, Steve's big on this stock. The pipelines, that'll be important. We have Progressive Insurance, that'll be important. And then Thursday's the big one. We have TSM and Netflix. We have UNH, big in the Dow Jones. DR Horton, that's big for the home builders. Charles Schwab, that's also going to be emblematic of what's going to happen with Robinhood. You have Truist, Regional Bank. But Netflix and TSM, those are going to be two really big ones on Friday or Thursday. And that will set up Q1 earnings going into the rest of the quarter. Interesting, dude. He thinks the VIX has peaked. I think that's interesting, bro. I think, see, look, here's the thing. Like, either he misspoke or he wouldn't have said that because that's too much of an aggressive statement, right? And so the fact that he said it just like that, he wants to tell people, hey, he doesn't think that it's going to be as bad as how people are expecting. We need that bullet. Dude, I haven't used the soundboard in so long. I don't know. It's just like there's so much breaking news that it's hard to even like think of pressing the soundboard. It's like my eyes are in 5 different places trying to find the updates. But I think we have to get some new sounds on the soundboard. Amit, do we really think of other nations we are upset at? Are they going to come back to us in a different way other than tariffs? I think other countries just want the tariff situation to be gone. That's it. And as long as they negotiate a meaningful deal, they're going to keep doing business with us because the U.S. consumer is the best consumer in the world. And they're not going to find the U.S. consumer anywhere else like in the United States. The 10-year right here, as you can see, down on the day, which is nice. So I think countries just want clarity. And the more clarity they get, the better chance we have of doing business with them. And will they want to get back at us? Yeah, maybe. But like at the end of the day, they don't have the leverage, right? Like unless you're China, you really don't have the leverage. If you're a smaller country that's trying to do business, even if you're the EU, like they do have leverage, but at the end of the day, they need the American consumer. And so now America also needs them as well. It's not like it's just purely one-sided. So I think deals will get done and we're going to figure this out. I'm just curious how good are the deals going to be? Because if we went through all of this and we got some crappy deal, I think people are going to be upset. But if we got some really good deals, which is what Kevin Hassett said today, then I think that could be a very big catalyst for markets. Now, one thing I still can't figure out is these Japanese 30-year bonds, why they've sold off the way they've sold off. Again, this is an unusual move. Maybe people think Japan's going to raise rates or something. It's up 0.12% on the day, which is just not supposed to happen on on a treasury bond. As you can see, there's the spike right there, looking like Weeble's stock price today. And it's the highest it's been since 2004. So this one is a little confusing. The global markets aren't that afraid of that. USD over JPY. Let me take a look at that real quick. That one, yeah, that's down another 0.24% of the day. It's down 3% for the month, 4% over the past 6 months, 9% year to date. So the dollar is considerably getting weaker against the yen. The Dixie, are we still under 100? Yeah, we're basically under 100 there. So those are still some external things I think we have to figure out. But yields coming down will help a lot of this stuff. And the way to get yields down is to get uncertainty to go down, aka market volatility to go down. And Bessent just said he thinks that the VIX has peaked, which is not bad. Do you think we rally when deals start getting announced? Yeah, I do. I kind of do. I really do. Again, let me nuance this with, it is about the quality of deals. If Vietnam says, I don't know what they would say, but let's say it's obvious what they say is just like, okay, cool. Now what? Right? It's not really one of those things like, wow, Vietnam is like seriously investing in the United States and they're going to buy more of our stuff, yada, yada. If it's just one of those type of deals, then I don't think the market's going to be happy, because the market's going to be like, why did we go through all of that to get a type of deal? But if we start getting some really cool deals, I think it's kind of obvious that J-Pow will be happy if the tariff rates come down. The market will be happy that we're going to be collecting some more revenue, having more trade, and we'll have more clarity, which is the biggest thing that the market has been looking for over the past couple of weeks. But again, there's a lot of ifs in terms of what I said. So until we get the ifs, until those ifs become true, then we're not going to know if that plays out. Netflix reportedly told employees it targets becoming $1 trillion market cap company and doubling its revenue by 2030. Wow. Wall Street Journal, huh? $1 trillion. Where's Netflix right now? Netflix market cap, it's like 400 billion, right? That means they think they can double in the next 5 years. Yeah, 400 billion. Oh, Netflix was up 1.4% on the day. Huh. Okay, that's a good poll. That's a good poll. Do you guys think Netflix can be a I don't want to bet against Netflix, dude. I'm over here waiting for April 24th to watch the new season of You. But $1 trillion though? Netflix revenues 2024. How much did they do in 2020? They did 40 billion and they're trading at 400. So they're trading at 10 times sales. For them to keep that same multiple, they would need to be doing basically 100 billion to get to $1 trillion. Yeah, essentially 80 to 100 billion. 5 years, huh? All right, so that's the question. Do you think Netflix can double? Do you think actually it's more than double, because it's only at 400 billion. It's not at 500 billion. Do you think Netflix can hit 1 trillion by 2030? Now, granted, $1 trillion might not be as glorious as we think it is in 5 years, 6 years. So maybe there's other elements to how we think of it. But yeah, you guys bring up some good points. I mean, they're getting into the creator space. They're doing live TV, NFL programming, sports, WWE, wrestling. I mean, they are exploring a lot of verticals. They still have over 300 million subscribers that pay for this thing. So, and they're the only streamer that's profitable. HBO Max is not profitable. Hulu's not profitable. That's where Hulu has to get merged with Disney. ESPN's not profitable. Like none of the Paramount's not profitable. I think there's going to be a lot more consolidation. Audio bad? Hold on. Audio. Dude, why does this happen every time? Okay. Oh, now. Let me see. Let's see. Is it better? Is it better? Better? Is it better? Yes, no, yes, no, and yes, no. Let's see. I don't know why that's happening every day. It sounds like I'm underwater. Let me know if it sucks, and then I'll switch. It's better? Better? Okay, cool. Cool. Yeah, Netflix, dude, huh? $1 trillion. By the way, JD Vance, I don't know if you guys saw this. He broke the trophy today when they were when they were introducing the Ohio State football team. So There's JD Vance, as you can see. Trying to pick up the trophy. He said, "I didn't want anyone after Ohio State to get the trophy, so I decided to break it." Dude, this is really funny, right? Like this is the type of stuff we didn't get in the last administration, where they were just like so active on X and like making jokes and stuff like that. You could tell like his staff didn't write that. It was probably him. So whether you like them or not, I mean, I said this in the morning, their marketing is just unbelievable. Like if you go to the White House's X account and all the subsidiary accounts, they are really being able to get the message across and basically engage in the internet generation with the memes and emojis and all that stuff, which, you know, to an extent is definitely helping their ability to get people to have a friendly view of the administration. Now, here's the thing. President Trump's approval numbers are slightly lower than where they were 2 weeks ago. Very slightly. It's like a minuscule difference. Market's recovering a little bit. If we get the market back to not even all-time highs, but like 570, 580 on the S&P, I think those approval numbers do well. If we stay stuck at these levels, if not, we go lower from here because of more tariff volatility, that approval number is going to get hit. And obviously, that's not going to be the best thing for the midterm. So that's going to be one thing I think Trump's probably looking for going into the next couple of weeks. Okay, let's finish up with Stacy. This was his analysis on Nvidia. We left to find out why the market was down, which was that 9-month investigation. But here was his take on the $500 billion investment Nvidia made today.
And PCs, which as of right now have some tariffs, but not the reciprocal tariffs for now. Right, those have been postponed. But the direct impact on semiconductors, if they do tariff, I'm assuming the tariff is not massive. If it's 10% or 20%, we can probably live with that. Frankly, semiconductor pricing on average is up 50% over the last 5 years anyways. If there's anything that has pricing power, they probably do.
What is realistic in the way we should think about the volume that we can eventually make here versus what we're importing overseas, and the kind of time frame that you're thinking about?
For semiconductors or for the stuff that they go into?
Semiconductors.
Yeah, so we were already doing some of that, right? I mean, and frankly, I know Trump doesn't really like the CHIPS Act apparently, but I would argue the CHIPS Act has actually been successful in its goals, which was to get some of these semiconductor manufacturing projects actually started here in the U.S., and it was happening. TSMC is investing a ton in.
That's one thing I should mention. A lot of people came out today and said the reason Nvidia is doing what they're doing is not just because of the tariffs, it's also because of the CHIPS Act that the Biden administration passed. So there are some people trying to say the only reason Nvidia is able to do what they're doing right now is because of that CHIPS Act, along with the fact that there was probably some pressure from the administration with tariffs.
Arizona was $65 billion. Now it's potentially $165 billion. Intel, I know they've had issues and they postponed some of their projects. They just don't have the volume right now, but they're looking to invest in Ohio and New Mexico and Arizona. So these projects were already happening. Now, if you're asking how quickly can we duplicate the entire infrastructure that is in Taiwan in the U.S., I would say, 10 years to never, right? That's a big ask, but I don't know that we have to do that. Not everything is necessarily as strategic as that. Mm-hmm. Getting some of these high-end leading-edge projects started here and getting some of that capacity here, I think can happen in the relatively near to medium term. Even TSMC is already running wafers in Arizona.
Well, I was going to ask you, what does that mean for someone like Taiwan Semi?
Well, again, they're actually operational in Arizona. And Nvidia even talked about them today. Nvidia is going to try to bring AI data center construction and operation back to the U.S. A big piece of that is TSMC. I think they even said in their press release that they are operating. They're running wafers and making Blackwell chips or GPUs at Nvidia Arizona right now.
Who's the biggest potential loser? Why is Micron up? Why is Nvidia up? And why is Broadcom down?
Today, that's a good question. I'm not actually sure. I've been running around all morning.
It's been down for most of the day. The market's clearly making a bet that whatever's happening and whatever tariffs might be on the come are not going to be good for Broadcom. It sticks out like a sore thumb today.
If I had to speculate today, and again, I don't know, but if I had to speculate, I might say, well, if Nvidia is going to be doubling down on GPUs here, there's this whole broader argument around GPUs versus custom ASICs for AI. And so maybe that's part of it. If NVIDIA is going to be doubling down here, maybe people are sort of reading that as negative for ASICs. I actually think, by the way, that's the wrong question right now. Presumably, if you're invested in AI, you still believe we're early. If we're still early, I think they can both benefit. If we're not early, they're both screwed.
Well, let me ask you about this, though. What if we're neither early nor late? We're just delayed. Well, because now you have all this uncertainty introduced. And the comment that I think it was Nadella made last week, alluding to the fact, well, all this spending is good and it's
Yeah.
going to stay on target, but of course it's related to macro
Sure.
events. I'm paraphrasing, of
Sure,
course,
sure.
but that's basically what he said. Isn't there risk in that?
So there's risk for everybody. That's not an Nvidia or a Broadcom question. Semiconductors are macro related, right? I mean, the correlation to GDP is very high, and in a recession, semiconductors tend not to do all that well. Now, I might argue that at least for AI spending, that may be something that continues to get prioritized, particularly as it relates to productivity enhancements and things like that. And I would also say, as it relates to all of the uncertainty around tariffs, at least for AI servers, there has been another avenue. There's the Mexico route through the USMCA. The AI servers, as far as I can tell, are compliant. And if they're coming in through Mexico, which a lot of them do in the US, they are tariff-free as of this point. So.
Do you ever think about, lastly, private equity, for example, is investing heavily in data center.
Yeah.
Do you think ever about, because of macro, a slowdown in the build out of data center, therefore the need for fewer chips than you once thought in the nearer term?
Again, I think the macro issues are a broad concern on semiconductors. I do not think, to the extent that you might worry about them for Nvidia or for data center, that they are isolated to that. If we go into a global recession, then I think all bets are off. But I think that's a true statement everywhere. It's not isolated to data center.
There was also a belief that semis sort of went into the fog first, or they anticipated the fog. They just didn't trade well. And now maybe they'd come out first.
Yeah, I mean, the issue there is we were coming off the other side of the COVID bender, right? I mean, we were in the hangover stage of the build and the bust and for semiconductors. And the worry now, again, is like, what does all this mean? Again, are we going to see, is there more pull forward? Is there more delays? It is a big fog, as you say. I don't think anybody knows. But semiconductors were already into, at least parts of semiconductors were already into the downturn phase. This may extend it. Like, I don't know. I don't think anybody knows at this point.
Good.
I agree with a lot of what he's saying. I mean, look, at the end of the day, if we have recession, yes, all bets are off the table. But if we don't, I mean, like, and I know there's a big if there, but I wonder how big that if really is, because inflation's coming down, job growth is okay, the tariff stuff I think is going to be walked back based on Bessent literally telling us about the VIX potentially peaking. Again, he didn't need to say that, dude. He did not need to say that, but he said that. And so that's him trying to tell the markets, relax, you're going to get your deals, give us some time, we're going to figure it out, just be patient with us. And I mean, what can you do as a market participant other than be like, okay, cool. Maybe I'm not going to get my Nvidia to 130 tomorrow, but if it's going to happen this year based on the volatility eventually calming down, then it's just a question of being patient, which hopefully doesn't create a recession. Rate cuts in June. Yeah, probabilities are above 50% for June. Again, and so this is really important by June. In June, we need enough clarity by Bessent and Trump that these tariffs are not going to be as aggressive as they are right now, because then the Fed's really going to be likely to cut, at least by 25 bips, because they're going to not feel that the tariffs are going to be as inflationary, and so they're going to have room to make progress on reducing the funds rate and get it closer to neutral with headline CPI. But if Trump comes out and he says, hey, instead of 150%, we'll be 400% tariffs or something like that, I think it's going to be really hard for Jay Powell to say it's time to cut. But I don't think that's going to happen. Like, this is what I said in the morning. I think the worst part of the trade war has happened with China. And I think, and it could get worse, sure, but I mean, like, how much more incrementally worse could it get? We've got the rare earth mineral stuff happening from China. We've got 150% both ways going back and forth. Like, eventually this stuff is relaxed. And it's just a question of when. Christian says, any real deals or just promises so far? Right now, they're just promises. Right now, we have no real deals. Granted, I do think these countries want to get a deal done. So, like, I do think we're going to get the deals. But as of now, it's the market assuming that Bessent is correct and we will get deals. And they're being patient to say when those deals come, it will be exciting. Netflix is up 2% after hours on that Wall Street Journal headline, which is interesting, because it's not like the company announced anything specific. It's just the CEO telling his employees in an email that, hey, we think we can get to $1 trillion. You guys said in the poll, yes, 52% of you think Netflix can get to $1 trillion by 2030. I don't know, dude. I mean, I feel like I shouldn't doubt Netflix. I feel like I would agree. I feel like it can get there. The growth would have to be, I think live programming would be where their real growth comes from, especially the big events. But could they get to $1 trillion? Yeah, just doubling from this size for not really a tech company. I've never thought of Netflix as a tech company. I thought of them as a media company that uses technology like the algorithm to surface content. And obviously there's a lot more machine learning AI involved in it. But at the end of the day, they have to buy media and they have to sell media and try to get a subscription or ad revenue on top of that. The leverage there is fundamentally different from like a YouTube or an Apple or a Meta. Now, granted, part of the reason I missed the entire Netflix thesis was because I thought of them too much as a media company. And as a result, I didn't see the essentially monopolistic sort of pricing power they have in the context of just having the best media out there. And the reason I say monopolistic is because if they're bidding for a TV series, they can just bid more than a lot of the other streamers because they're profitable and they just have the war chest to be able to get that content on their platform. So it's not literally a monopoly, but like they tend to act in ways that gets them the best content. And so as a result, if they're doing that profitably, maybe Netflix can continue to do better. Did you watch Black Mirror? I like the show. I've only watched like 1 or 2 episodes of this show. I'm not like a big fan of like actually sitting through the whole season of it, but a new season came out, right? This was one of their biggest hits over the past decade. So that's another big one for Netflix. My favorite episode, I think it's called Hang the DJ, something like that. So it's a really good one. If anyone's ever seen Netflix Hang the DJ on Black Mirror, that's like one of my favorite episodes of Black Mirror. My average cost on Netflix is $4.32. Should have added more. Well, you're up more than double, which is nice. Trump is not speaking this evening. I mean, he already spoke. He spoke with El Salvador president, and then he spoke at the Ohio State NFL stuff. So I don't think he's speaking again. Warren, thanks for the super chat. China may not want the deal. Xi wants to get Taiwan back. It's part of his promise to Chinese people. Yeah, we talked about that in the morning, this idea that invading Taiwan would be more likely as a result of these tariffs. I don't think so, dude. I hope that we will get a deal done and whatever invasion of Taiwan either never happens or is severely delayed for a very long time. If it's expedited, we've got a lot of issues. And I think given Xi Jinping's economy is under collapse, he knows that this might not be the best time to do it. So I would be hoping it doesn't get as bad. Rocket Lab right here. Whoa. God candle on Rocket Lab, 5.28%. Why is Rocket Lab up right now? Let me see what's going on with the Lab of Rockets. I think they had to get a deal, right? Rocket Lab. It's a nice green candle. Rocket Lab on-ramp to multi-billion US and UK defense contract to expand hypersonic technology development with haste. Okay. Bullish. Rocket Lab, a global leader in launch services and space systems, today announced that it has been selected to provide hypersonic test launch capability with its HASTE launch vehicle, engineering expertise, and other services through its participation in 2 multi-billion-dollar government development programs for the US and the UK. Wow. Okay. There you go. We don't know how much money this is worth. It says it's a multi-billion-dollar governmental development program. Rocket Lab's not going to be the only one getting that money. It seems like they're one of a couple companies that got selected to participate in this. But still, even if they get a couple $100 million from this, I mean, even if it's over the course of 5-6 years, like that's a decent chunk of money they're bringing in right here. Yeah, it's up a whole $1. There you go. All right. Not bad. Rocket Lab, that's the headline. Multi-billion-dollar US and UK defense contract. We haven't had a lot of news by Rocket Lab for a while. So 5.85% after hours. It's nice to see a headline from them because we really haven't gotten that over the past couple of weeks. They have earnings coming up in about a month as well. So we're going to see if that increases their demand outlook. Also, we're going to see if that can increase their profitability. I mean, I think they'll be profitable by the end of the year, but if they can get that to happen sooner than later, maybe we can settle back in that 25 to 29 range that it was at for about a month. Palantir right here down about 0.5%, Robinhood down 0.5%, Nvidia down 1/3%, Netflix still up 2% based on that Wall Street Journal headline, and Rocket Lab up 4.8%. Mitt, do you still have Rocket Lab? Yes, I still have my puts on Rocket Lab as well. I rolled those to $20 from $22. So Yeah, I still have shares, still have my puts. Not a big position. Again, things are just so discounted with Nvidia, etc. So it's like been allocating more to that, but still have some Rocket Lab. 4.8% currently, right here, right now. Netflix had a Wall Street Journal article come out with a leaked email saying the company expects to be $1 trillion company and doubling their revenue by 2025, or sorry, 2030. Which is like a stupid reason for this thing to pump, because it's like the CEO could say anything. It's like he's the CEO. Of course he's going to be bullish. But the market likes it. The market likes it. Mate, you know not to say Trump's not speaking anymore tonight. He's going to talk at 2 a.m. Yeah, again, I'm telling you, Trump goes live more than me. It's pretty incredible. Why didn't Grab move today on the acquisition news? I don't know. I think Grab's not moving on anything. Like, again, the adjusted EBITDA guidance should have been closer to 500 million. Grab said 450. I think that as soon as they said that in February, that ruined the next couple months for them, because this is a stock that needs to hit their numbers, and they're obviously sandbagging. But if you're going to sandbag, the street's just, not going to give you the benefit of the doubt. I think on the next earnings, when they increase that, which they've increased every single time for the past 3 quarters, that's when I think we get over $5 and we can maintain that level. So at this point, Grab almost 50% cash, more and more bullish deals. To me, this is just acquisition phase. We also see the dark pool moving pretty aggressively. I think there's going to be a lot of shares that are being acquired in the dark pool, but we need a good earnings. And I think we'll get the good earnings. It's just going to be a game of patience to get there. And again, the reason Grab's doing it is because they want to sandbag, which I get it. They want to underpromise, overdeliver. So hopefully in May, we get a much stronger earnings. This is Berkshire's cash. This was updated today. Warren Buffett is sitting on enough cash to buy 476 companies in the S&P 500. Pretty incredible, right? pretty freaking incredible. So plenty of cash. I think we get the 13G, 13F forms in about 30 days. And then we're going to see what Mr. Buffett has been buying. Amit, have you ever done a wheel strategy with cash clear puts and covered calls? Yes, I'm a big fan of it. I think it is a great way to generate income. So yeah, big fan of the wheel strategy, and definitely think everyone should at least explore learning about it if they're going to be actively trading. Amit, are you bullish on deregulation this year? Yeah, I mean, we haven't really seen massive levels of deregulation yet. And that's what Bessent said today, that he thinks we're going to get deregulation soon. Or he said, the quote was, we have a multifaceted policy. It's not just tariffs, but it's taxes and deregulation along with tariffs. So that's the part that, or tax cuts and deregulation. So that's the part that Bessent is bullish about. If Buffett isn't deploying yet, it means that shit hasn't happened yet. Yeah. And again, we don't really know, because he's not required to disclose unless it's a 10% stake. So he could be buying, and we're not going to find out until the 13Fs drop. We know he's buying Japan. We know he's raising money by selling bonds in Japan. Did that to the tune of 90 billion yen, which is $628 million. Who knows? Maybe he bought 3% of PayPal, and we're going to find out in 30 days. But if he hasn't deployed any cash, I don't know, bro. I feel like he's waiting for a little bit too much pain, and I don't know, maybe we have more pain to see. But again, just like the sentiment, even it feels different. And I know sentiment can change really quickly, but if we're going to get deals and we're going to have good earnings, and now we have some evidence based on the banks, Goldman Sachs, et cetera, putting up some amazing numbers. I mean, again, these guys are growing like tech companies with their EPS growth in double digits. Like, all we need is more clarity around tariffs. And then I think it doesn't mean we have to get to 7,000 on the S&P, but it definitely doesn't mean we have to go back to 4,800, which means at that point we bottomed. Hopefully. It really just depends now on tariff clarity and earnings. Yeah, Buffett probably wants confirmation we're going up. I think that's fair. Markets have not moved since November. If he wasn't buying then, he isn't buying now. But he did buy some in November. Like, he definitely sold a ton, but I think, if I'm not wrong, he initiated a couple positions towards the end of the year. Yeah, he added Oxy, which I don't know if you want to count that or not. He added Siri. He added Domino's, 86%. He has now his 2.3 million shares in Domino's. And then he added Pool Corp. He sold Nubank. He sold Charter. He sold the S&P, sold 15% of his Bank of America, sold Capital One. Granted, Domino's is kind of a recession hedge, so it's not really like a position. It's more like, hey, if people are broke, at least they'll buy pizza. So, yeah, I guess we got to see. We got to see if he actually starts buying. Applied Digital right here, down about 10%. Rocket Lab, look at that, up 8% after hours. Market really likes this deal. Look at that candle, dude. That is nice. 7.2% after hours. Looks like the market is definitely a bit more excited about this deal than not. Yeah, Chubb Limited as well. That's also fair. He did not buy during the COVID crash, so what are we missing? Yeah, look, that's a good point. I mean, Buffett is the GOAT, but there are some things like I don't understand why he sold the airlines during the COVID crash because the airlines recovered really easily, and like it was just a temporary moment where we had to wait for travel. And I don't know exactly if he sold those and he doubled down on something else, but he definitely didn't buy tech. He didn't go harder on Apple. Like it was COVID kind of just like there wasn't that many crazy moves that he made. So yeah, we do have some historical evidence that he didn't miss COVID in terms of adding to positions, but he definitely didn't like aggressively go all in. And it's time to go. Now, no one could tell, right? During that time, no one could tell if 4,800 was the bottom a couple days ago, but there might be a world in which we start to see him maybe allocate more capital because during COVID, they just didn't allocate as much as they said. Let's get a little bit more clarity on what some of the other folks are thinking about the current state of the market right now, especially in the context of technology companies. This is Robinhood's Stephanie Guild. She was on CNBC. And I think she's still relatively bearish on this overall market given the earnings outlook, but here's what she had to say as well today.
But have to be on the trade side. Neil Kashkari told us the other day that, at least from his point of view, should the Fed step in to correct a rate dislocation if it's on the part of global investors reallocating their portfolios in light of new information? He did raise the possibility that they wouldn't accommodate that. That's fair.
I mean, there was more Fed speak today in which, Waller was like, sounded at the ready, even though they think that you're going to be transitory on some of the tariff inflation. Steve Leisman, our senior economics correspondent, is going to bring us up to date on exactly what these Fed speakers are saying today. And I think that's the gist I got.
Yes, I want to be in the camp that we've seen the worst, but we've got to set a rate and move forward on it.
I think earnings growth is too high still. It's like at 11%.
And expectations.
Right, expectations, I should say, not what it's definitely going to be. And every time the GDP falls by 1%, it's about a 4% drop in earnings growth over time, if you look back over the last 30 years. So I think the 11% expectation is still a bit too high. And that's where I think, that's why I'm still cautious.
Well, to your points, and JP Morgan makes this case as well today, that according to them, the valuation level of the market now is one that you would see at the start of a downturn rather than at the end.
Yeah.
So if, in fact, we are going to have a more meaningful downturn, then valuations need to correct a fair amount more than where they are now.
Yeah, but
if you think earnings growth is not going to be good. So again, Stephanie's opinion is that she thinks earnings expectations are still too high at 11%. I mean, even if we don't get 11%, I don't think we're getting like 0% growth, but it really just depends on tariffs. And we're not going to get that much guidance unless in the next 10 days, Trump announces deal after deal after deal, which maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't. But realistically, I don't know how Google can give us a ton of guidance. They're going to try to do whatever they can to get the market to be kind of okay with what they say. But it's not like they can easily give guidance because they just don't know what the tariff rates are going to look like. And a lot of these companies, most of their growth comes out internationally. And that revenue still has to be accounted for going into the second quarter. I mean, sometimes I think I should have sold everything in February when Buffett took the cash out. Yeah, I mean, look, everyone obviously loves to theorize about selling the top. By the way, Rocket Lab right here up 7.74%. It's just not practical. Every indicator you can use to say, okay, I need to get out of the market. Like when it comes time to actually making the decision, especially if we're in a violent bull run, like we were with Hood at 65, Palantir at 125. You know, it's a discipline that's hard to engage in. I'm still trying to learn it as well, but I think everyone to an extent has to learn how to sell. One guy who knows how to sell really well, maybe a little bit too well, is Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel is just amazing at figuring out how to sell. Now he sold a lot of Palantir at 34, which obviously has not been the best decision, but it's hard. It's hard to sell. Like selling is harder most of the time than buying. It's easy to buy. It's hard to be like, all right, I'm going to take profits right here, because you're always so afraid of what it goes up, and you felt like you made a good decision getting in, and now you're getting out, and it keeps rallying. But I think there's a strategy and a psychology to learning how to at least have a spidey sense to say, let me take some off the table, you know? Especially if you want the profits. If you want to be long forever, then you got to just exist with the volatility. But if you really need, like for example, I should have sold more Hood in February when it was at 65. That would have much better helped me pay my taxes. And I knew I had the tax bill coming up, so that was kind of stupid of me. Like I knew I had a tax bill coming up. But my plan was, to be fair, to sell my options that were deep in the money. The problem is, as Hood fell, not only did my shares reduce in value, but the options also, they got closer to the strike, which is not good for exiting at a higher price, especially with the amount of time I have left on them. So, I mean, these are just experiences everyone has to take to try to get better when it comes to trimming at the end of the day. Greed is a hell of a drug. It is. It absolutely is. It was, Hood at 65 had me pretty damn greedy, dude. It's like, all right, baby, we're going to 80 now. Let's do it. It's like, all right, you got to chill out a bit. You got to chill out a little bit. But the point is, no one's perfect at this. No one is perfect at this. And it just takes time to develop a talent for this. All right, do we have any other headlines? The Bessent headline was the big one, bro. The Bessent headline was the big one. VIX has peaked. What happened to the guy who was up 17K on Webull? His name is Jerry. Jerry, if you're in the chat, let us know what you did. But he sold half of it at 47. And he explicitly said, Amit, should I sell? And I was like, well, if I was up 17K, I would sell. So now Webull's much higher. If he didn't sell the other half, he's still riding high. If he did, then hopefully he made more than 17K. But look, dude, I don't, if you got in at 20 and you sold at 45, it's like, it is what it is, bro. It's like, it's literally a game of musical chairs when it comes to stuff like this. Webull should not be 80% of Robinhood's market cap. That is an absolute joke. And so you cannot feel bad if the thing runs up 20 bucks after you sold. Like, it is what it is. There's a lot of gamblers out there. You were a gambler as well. If you got into this, if you got out, then congrats. But there's no crying in the casino because you didn't make an extra $5,000 by holding on. Because just as easy as you could have made it, I mean, you could have easily lost it. We saw this with Newsmax, 287 to 23. If you bought at 287 or even bought anywhere above 23 over the past week, you're obviously not very happy right now. Speaking of Peter Thiel, by the way, his fund raised another $5 billion, bro. Founders Fund, they raised a ton of money for AI. And I'm at the point where I don't know if some of this AI stuff is a bubble, but again, it's definitely feeling like it a little bit. Ilya, the guy who left OpenAI, he raised at a $32 billion valuation. No one knows what the hell the product is. It's called Super Safe Intelligence. And then Peter Thiel raised $4.6 billion for their later stage VC fund. Now, this is not really bubblish because they're a VC. They're going to be deploying $4.6 billion into other AI names. But Ilya raising at a $32 billion valuation. That to me is like, okay, why? Like, no one knows what the hell the product is. And then Mira Murati, who is the OpenAI CTO, she's raising at a $10 billion valuation. And she's raising $2 billion. She's selling 20% of the company, raising $2 billion. No one knows what the hell they're building. So this, I'm just, like, this makes me feel queasy, bro. Like, this is, you do not want to see, because this feels like Web3. Now, granted, AI is real. Web3 was fake, but still, these valuations for product, for not even products, like just ideas. Even though I know these people are incredibly smart and the VCs probably trust them to be able to build something, it is a little weird, bro. It's a lot of money. Makes you think Palantir is undervalued, looking at, like, dude, what, 32 billion for nothing? Like, what, 10 billion for nothing just because you were previously at OpenAI? Okay, so what? Who cares? Like, yeah, yeah, you got a lot of experience, but like building a company just because you came from another company doesn't just mean it gets to be at whatever valuation you want it to be. Like, it's aggressive. So I don't know, but the point is there's tons of money, tons of liquidity out there. It's chasing AI, even though the tariff volatility has dominated the headlines. AI doesn't seem like a fad, given all the money that's out there to continue to chase these opportunities. Could Hood get to 80 if it gets into the S&P? I don't know. I think my expectation now is that if we're in a bull market towards the end of the year and we get S&P, we get to 65, which was the all-time highs. And I think that's reasonable. I don't think that's crazy to say that Hood, if it keeps up 30% growth, can get to all-time highs by the end of the year with the S&P 500. To get beyond that, we would really need a bull market, like a serious bull market. Because again, Hood makes money in a bull market. If it's like a moderate bull market, basically S&P ending the year at 61, 6,200, I don't think Hood can get to 80. Like, you need incredible levels of momentum to see Hood get to 80 there. But 65 all-time highs again, I don't think that's crazy. We just need a decent bull market. Along with the fact that Hood has a lot of crypto stuff coming up in the fall, so that could be very important for them as well. Where are we meeting up in Toronto? I do not have a location for the Toronto meetup. I do have the form. I'm putting it right here in the chat. If anyone wants to join, again, you'll get an email probably on Wednesday with a link to a group with all the details. I don't know where we're meeting up. If anyone's in Toronto, message me if you have an idea for a location. I already got a couple messages, but I bought my ticket a couple hours ago, so we're officially doing it. I'm using Porter. That's the name of the airline, Porter. I wanted to go with United, but Porter apparently is the main one for Toronto. But I don't know. I'm open to ideas. If anyone has it, DM me on Twitter of different places we can go. But like 70 of you guys already signed up for this. So, and I haven't even posted it on Twitter yet. So I don't know there was that many of you guys in Toronto. But whatever place we pick might have to accommodate like around 100 people, if not more. I think Palo Alto, we had about, I would say 65 people. NYC, we had about 40. So it looks like a ton of you guys are in Toronto. I'll come if you give me a cookie. We should get cookies. You know, one of the things I really want to do is like book an actual event, like not an event, but like a space just for everybody, so that it's like just excluded to just like the meetup. But the good thing over the past couple of meetings is that like the bars we've went to have basically been a private event without me having to book a private hall for the event. Because those are really expensive, right? Like they just end up being expensive. But if you have the right connections, then or you get a little bit of luck, like you end up just getting a place where you can be at for hours. And in Palo Alto, I called up the place, but like I visited the place a couple months before I went there for a different event. And then I called them up before having the event. I was like, hey, if I have like 50 people, like, is it okay? And they're like, yeah, it's fine. It's a random Thursday. And I was like, okay, cool. Then we'll just show up. So I got to figure it out when it comes to Toronto as well. Do we have a date for Houston yet? Most likely end of May. We don't have an actual date, but most likely end of May. So no date, but most likely end of May. Uzi says, I can get us a private space at a bar in Midtown NYC for the fall meetup. Yeah, but Uzi, can it hold like 100 people? That's the most important thing. If it can, then DM me, because yes, that would be amazing. But it's got to be big at this point, because I think there's going to be a lot more people there. This is the form again for anyone who wants to go to the Toronto meetup. I'm putting it right here on the screen. If you have any suggestions, message me. And yeah, we're going to be doing it April 26th. Houston's going to be 900 people. So a lot of you guys are in Houston, which is great. I don't know if it's going to be 900 people, but a decent, like, and that's going to be a fun one, because we're going to have Roy, we're going to have Matt, we're going to have Dougie, Ray, Michelle, all the common characters that make fun of me every day in the chat will be there. So that'll be a fun one. That'll be a super fun one. When's Florida? Still don't know about Florida yet. Still, I still don't know by Miami. I'm hoping June. I was thinking of May, but then Houston's going to be May. So most likely June. If not June, then July. Because June might be the UK and France. So, but I'm pretty sure Miami's happening closer to the end of summer. Don't be scared of Miami. No, I'm excited for Miami, dude. Miami's fun. Miami's fun. I'm saying that like I go to Miami all the time. There's a couple people I want to meet in Miami. And yeah, that's why I definitely want to do Miami. I think I told you guys this story a while ago. There was this guy who messaged me and he said, hey, if you're ever in Miami, make sure to let me know so we can meet up. And he bought Palantir at like 30 because of my tweets. And that's the only reason he cares about me. But it's just insane who the person is. Like, and I don't until like I meet him, I don't want to say his name, but like it's actual insanity. Like when I got the DM, I'm like, there's no way this is him. And I click on it. It's verified, has hundreds of thousands of followers. I was like, holy shit. I was like, it's him. And he's like, hey, I saw your tweets a year ago when Palantir was 30. I bought a lot of it. I'm up a lot. When you're in Miami, I want you to hit me up so we can chill. I was like, what the fuck? Steve didn't believe me when I told him. I was like, Steve. He was like, there's no way. I was like, I can't believe it, dude. But it's a celebrity. Yeah, like someone who's very powerful, I would say. And it's not like a YouTuber. Like we're talking about power. Like business power. Worth billions, business power. But it goes to show this is the greatest age ever to create content. Because not only were we buying freaking Palantir at $10, but like other people were seeing the tweets and they took a stab at it at 30 after it already had 5x from the lows, and they're up 3x. It's insane, bro. It's freaking insane. It's not PBD. It's not Mark Cuban. I don't think any of you guys are going to guess it. None of you guys have guessed it. It's not Gary Vee. Gary Vee's not a billionaire. Gary Vee's rich, but he's not that rich. It's not PBD. Although I would love to do his podcast one day. I mean, I don't think I'm cool enough to be on his podcast. I would love to interview him, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It would be super cool to interview him. Dude, you guys are not gonna figure it out. This guy is so under the radar, but he's like, if I say his name, you're like, holy crap. And I'm like, this guy was looking at my tweets seriously. And he actually bought. I don't think he knows what Palantir does, bro. I think he just saw the tweets when it was like starting its run back in, call it what? June of 2024. Yeah, so last year around this time. And I think he was just like, all right, screw it. But a small purchase to him has to be like at least a couple million shares. There's no way like it's anything less than that. And I think that's the reason he messaged me, because if he bought like 1,000 shares, you wouldn't reach out to it. But like if he's up a lot of money, then it was probably millions and millions of shares that he bought. It's not Joe Rogan. He's in Texas. It's not P. Diddy. He's in jail. Probably going to be in jail for a while. Also, he's not even in Miami. Isn't he in LA? It's not Dana White. It's not Grant Cardone. It's not Mr. Beast. It's not a YouTuber, bro. Like none of you can guess it. It's so under the radar, but it's so like, what the heck? Like I told my sister in passing. I don't even know why I told her. Like, because the only person I told was Steve. That's literally the only person I told. And then I told my sister, I was like, oh yeah, this guy messaged me. And she literally stopped the car. She was like, what? And I was like, she's like, that guy. I was like, yeah, that guy. And she's like, I don't believe him. And I showed her my phone. And then she got mad at me. She was like, why didn't you tell us? I was like, I don't know. It was like, I just didn't like, I don't know. And then she goes home and then she freaking, she tells my mom, she's like, can you believe he didn't tell us this? My mom is just like, are you like hiding things? Like, do you just not want to share your life with us? And I was like, no, I just didn't think I needed to share this. And so like, even my sister my sister barely knows who Alex Karp and Vlad Tenev are, even though those two men made her a lot of money, but she probably couldn't recognize them if you showed a picture. She knew who this guy was. And I was like, that's wild. That's how famous he is. But he's in Miami. So yeah, that's another reason I have to go to Miami. Rocket Lab are here up 5.8% after hours. Robin is down a little bit. Palantir is down a little bit. Nvidia is down a little bit. And then S&P down about 0.24%. It's not Tony Robbins. It's not, dude, none of you guys have guessed. I'm not even lying. None of you have guessed it. It's not Ron DeSantis. It's not Mark Wahlberg. That would be crazy, bro. If it was Mark Wahlberg, holy crap, dude, that would be crazy. It's not LeBron James. It's not in Miami. It's not someone on Grindr. That's funny, though. It's not Dave Gutman. It's not Shaq. It's not Pitbull. Dude, Pitbull. Could you imagine, dude? That would be a fun night. Miami with Pitbull. It's not Bezos. I don't think Bezos couldn't send that message. Bezos is too high level. Like, this guy's pretty up there, but he's not Bezos up there, you know? Like, Bezos can't message a random guy saying, hey, thanks for your tweets because I bought this stock. I don't think any of these CEOs can actually say stuff like that. The hint is this guy is very connected to power. He has a lot of power. He's connected to power. He's got a massive empire of business behind him that creates his power, and his family is very powerful. And that's why I was just like surprised when I got the message. It's not Dave Portnoy. It's not Kevin O'Leary. Yeah, I don't think any of you guys got it yet. When you coming to Madrid? Thank you, Ignacio, for the super chat. I have no idea when I'm coming to Spain. Definitely coming to the UK and France later this year, but not sure when we're coming to Spain. I think a lot of those other European countries, 2026. That's when it'll happen. But given the meetups are a new thing this year, and we're trying to like solidify them. We're just trying to get, a lot of the United States out of the way, and then we'll do international ones. Armand, thanks for the super chat. And Mick, can you come to Vancouver, BC, please, or Seattle? A lot of people said Seattle. Maybe 2026 we do Seattle. But I don't think it's going to happen this year. Dude, you guys still aren't getting it. You guys are doing a lot of guesses. You're not getting it. I can't say it, dude. I'm not even trying to tease. I just don't want to say it. I don't want to say it until I actually meet the guy. Because we eventually got to meet him, but yeah, a lot of you guys still haven't got it. When Toronto, there we go. There's the fellow Canadian right here. So Tanner, it's April 26th. I expect you to be here. And yeah, we got to do it. We got to do it somewhere that's popular. So Tanner, if you have any ideas, I'm going to hit you up and let me know what the ideas are. It's not Peter Thiel. I wish it was Peter Thiel. Could you imagine, Peter? Dude, he owns Palantir. That would be ridiculous. But yeah, it's not Peter Thiel. Even though I think Peter Thiel's in Miami. It's not David Beckham. But yeah, Tanner should be at the meetup April 26th. If you're free, Tanner, I'm going to be there April 24th. So I'll have Friday to just kind of chill. And then 26th, I think we do the meetup. And then I'm out 27th morning. So hopefully Tanner can join. And it'll be fun. It'll be super fun. The form, again, for anyone who wants the form, I'm putting it right here. I'm going to post this on Twitter tonight as well. But here's the form for Toronto. We did San Francisco already. Well, we did Palo Alto, which is close. But I'm sure I'll be back to California many times later this year. So we'll see if we can do another meetup. But I'll definitely be back in the Bay Area later this year. What hotel are you staying at? I don't know. I think it's I was thinking of doing an Airbnb, not a hotel. I haven't looked at the hotel prices, but I guess I'll compare them, but I haven't picked. I want to be next to the CN Tower, though. I want to be next to the CN Tower. How do I know the name of the CN Tower? Because Drake made a song called the CN Tower. So, it's a good song, too, from his latest album. Dude, if I pull up to Toronto, we got to have Drake blasting, bro. This is the one place where I can be unapologetically a Drake fan. So I'm even thinking of getting an OVO hoodie, bro. I wanted to pull up with an OVO hoodie, like the official one. Justin Bieber lives in LA, dude. He doesn't live in Miami. But Justin Bieber bought Palantir. That would be crazy. But yeah, we are gonna definitely be blasting Drake. I don't want to hear no Not Like Us. I don't want to hear no Kendrick Lamar. None of that shit, bro. I don't care. It's Drake City. It's the 6. We got to give it up to Drake. I don't care what anyone says, dude. Yeah, maybe he lost the battle. I don't care. Drake's music is the soundtrack of my life. His music goes back to when I was in middle school, bro. Like, no one can take that away from Drake. I don't care if he lost a stupid battle with Kendrick Lamar. Like, it's his music. It's foundational. It's foundational at the end of the day. And most people relate to his music way more than Kendrick Lamar, which is what matters. Tanner says you have to come meet the wife. I don't know if she became wife already. Wow. Look at Tanner. Look at Tanner, bro. I think. Whoa. Is this real? There's no way. Hold on. Is this real? Hold on. No, this is fake. No, it's real. Holy shit. Okay, well, speaking of Twitter, I should probably follow this guy back. We got the Michael Dell follow. All right, cool. There we go. Mr. Michael Dell is now following you. I responded to this guy a bunch of times about Bitcoin. All right, I'm going to follow him back. I did not know I wasn't following him. So there you go. I'm going to press follow back right here. He's in Austin. All right, bro. I'm DMing him and I'm saying, hey, bro, I'm going to be in Texas. Let's do a podcast. Let's do it. There we go. Michael Dell. Yo, the other person who followed me the other day, and this one, he actually DM'd me back when I messaged him, Brad Gerstner. He followed me the other day. As soon as he followed me, bro, like a day later, I went in his DMs. I was like, yo, can we do a podcast? Yeah. And he actually responded in like 5 minutes. I was surprised. And he said, hey, we can't do over the next 2 months, but just hit me up near the fall. And I was like, bet. So hopefully we get that Gerstner pod. Gerstner, I really respect, bro. Gerstner is just awesome. I really respect Gerstner. Just like as an intellectual when it comes to investing, I love that guy. So that'll be a fun one if we can do it. Tanner says I'm a little bit away from the CN Tower, though. I think my Airbnb is like a 15-minute walk from the CN Tower. So yeah, I want to be closer to the CN Tower. All right, Tanner. So then you're definitely coming to the meetup then. Tanner, we're going to make sure he has all the peer pressure right now, April 14th, to guarantee he will be free on April 26th. And Tanner, I'll be all right, perfect. So we got Tanner. So Tanner, I'll see you on the 25th then. I'll just Uber to your house and we can chill. And then yeah, 26th we can do the meetup. Maybe not on time. Yeah, he's definitely not going to be there on time. And if he is there on time, I'm going to make sure he comes late just for the meme. Like everyone should clap when he walks in. That'll be perfect. That'll be perfect, bro. That'll be great. Mitt's career is exploding from his mom's basement. Dude, the funniest thing about this is, like, again, I don't tell my parents any of this stuff because they don't know who Brad Gerstner is. They don't know who Michael Dell is. They don't care. The other day, though, when we did the market close for 5.5 hours, I was done and my dad was mad. He was like, what the fuck were you talking about for 5.5 hours? I was like, I don't know. But like he's like, why? He's like, what? Like he was actually upset. He's like, what were you doing? I was like, well, like we just kept talking. And he's like, I just don't understand what you're doing. I'm like, we're just talking about, he's like, he doesn't understand this shit, bro. It doesn't make sense to him. Like he doesn't get social media content, any of this stuff. So such an Indian dad response. Yeah, dude, he was mad I didn't eat dinner because I was streaming. So they don't get these updates because they understand, like, okay, meeting Carp, meeting Vlad, going to these events, it's like a cool thing. But I think they're desensitized to a lot of it. And like it was big last year. Now it's just like whatever. B, they also don't really understand the extent of what's happening here. That's okay because they don't need to, we just have to keep building and keep trying to get bigger and bigger and bigger. Did he give you the head shake? Dude, why is your name Nutlick, dude? This is why every time I try to say his name, I end up saying Nutlick, because people on YouTube will make their profile name Nutlick. And I have to see this in the chat. At least you're not gaming for 5 hours. Yes, exactly. Even though I think the gamers do very well for themselves. But yes, I'm not gaming. Do they ever tune in and watch it? No, my dad actually, he might be watching right now, dude. He tunes into the market close. And then he talks about everything that I talked about at when he comes home. He's like really getting interested in the markets, bro. Like he really cares about what's going on. He's excited about what happens every single day. Like he wants to talk about it every single day. So It's not Michael Rubin. Although Derek is good friends with Michael Rubin, but it's not Michael Rubin. Even Derek was surprised, bro, because Derek lives in Miami. So Derek lives in the place where all the billionaires live and everything. And so when I told him, he was like, really? I was like, yeah, dude. And I was like, huh. It was one of those DMs where I was like, damn, that was interesting. But again, it's not because of me. It's because of Palantir, right? I just post about Palantir because I've been following the company, but it's because Palantir is such an exciting name and there's momentum and excitement, all this stuff, and it attracts all this attention. And if you've just been in it for a long time and you've kind of been a core commentator on the company's journey, that's what creates these positions, which is why I'm always gonna be grateful to the company. And this NATO deal we got today, just continues to create the momentum. Steve literally said, call me 2 minutes ago. Hold on, let me call him. I was on Do Not Disturb again. Dude, I really need to get off Do Not Disturb. I miss so many notifications when I'm on Do Not Disturb. Let's see if he picks up. Steve, I'm live on the close.
I don't know how you can be on the close. But okay.
Dude, this is the joke's getting old at this point. You've done it like 5 times. Like it's not even funny.
I mean, if you could scientifically explain that to me, I'd be great. But I have one word for you.
One word for me? Okay, don't say it. Don't say it. Don't say it. What does the word have to do with investing?
It's one word. That's it.
Okay, everyone in the chat, guess what is this one word? Is this a troll or this is like something important?
No, why would it be a troll?
Is the word milk?
No, it's NATO.
Oh, you like that deal we got today, huh?
Yeah, I mean, it's big. I'm really happy for Palantir. It's really big.
We're not talking about it as much because of freaking all this tariff shit, but it's a big fucking deal, dude.
It's a big deal.
It's a big fucking deal. Like,
it's a big deal.
Where were you when you heard? Were you on Twitter or were you like? How'd you find out about the news?
No, I got a news update.
What was your first reaction?
My first reaction was, holy shit.
Dude,
not that I didn't think they were going to get something like that, but this is a big deal.
Okay, so in your opinion, why do you think it's a big deal? Because I have my own theory, but I'm curious about yours.
Because they are solidifying themselves as the go-to AI company, not for consulting, but for actual use case scenarios and building things out. This is a big deal, like really big deal.
So,
and NATO means so many things after this gets built.
Yeah.
That after this gets built, you're going to see Palantir software in different tanks, planes, different equipment, drones. I mean, this is big, very big.
Okay, so my analysis was the countries that are part of NATO, Germany, France, etc. They're the same countries that have refused to use Palantir software. So my immediate reaction when I saw this news was, holy shit, if NATO officially has put their foot in the ground and saying, we're going to use Palantir, I think Germany and France eventually come around the corner.
How about this? The government business is going to be the new talk, not U.S. commercial. How about that?
Because commercial is growing at 45% right now.
Right.
So if that government business compounds at 50, 60, that would be exciting.
Look, I still think they're overvalued, but I think they grow into the valuation a lot quicker at this point.
If they're going to get Europe as a legitimate revenue stream, they will grow into the valuation quicker.
I may have to rethink the whole investment case at that point.
Yeah, and at that point, dude, I mean, like, at that point, is it crazy buying at these levels? Obviously, it's still expensive, but
yes, it's still crazy buying at these levels, but it's not as crazy as it was yesterday. How about that?
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree, 100%. Especially, and they announced their earnings today, May 5th. It's going to be on Cinco de Mayo. I think they announced it today for a reason. I think that they're trying to send a message, like, not only did we get NATO, but we're ready to tell you our results.
Cart better have a Corona on the table when they do earnings. How about that?
Cart better have a cologne?
A Corona.
Oh, a Corona. No, I agree.
For Cinco de Mayo.
Oh, dude, this is good. This is a big one today. This was a big one.
Big news. Big news.
Did you buy anything today?
No, I had literally 5 minutes to myself today.
Oh, so you had meetings all day and everything.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna let you go, but so I've been talking about that guy who DM'd me about how he bought Palantir at 30, and he said to hit him up when I come to Miami without saying his name. When I told you who that guy was, what was your reaction to it?
I mean, I was really proud of it.
That's very nice.
I mean, it's a big deal.
That's yeah, okay. So I thought you were gonna be like, holy shit, because I was telling everybody, like, Steve didn't believe it. We were on the phone together, and I was like, you didn't believe it, and then I sent you the screenshot. You're like, holy shit.
Well, it's not that I didn't believe it. It's just, without going into the details of who it is, it's a big deal. It was more like a shocking moment than not believing you. Well, obviously, I believed you. It was more like, holy shit.
No, but I didn't believe it either. I thought it was a bot. So it was one of those things where it's like, I get why it's unbelievable, because I was like, what? Like, how's this happening? But
yeah, and it's one of those things that it's not something that you can make up. Like, you would make up somebody completely different than that person.
Exactly.
So it's legit off the bat.
Yeah.
It's not like you're saying it Peter Thiel. You know what I mean?
who owns Palantir anyway?
Exactly.
But, yeah, they've guessed. They haven't been able to find. I don't want to say his name because I want to actually meet the guy first. But
who the chats get? They're never going to guess. Don't even tease them. They're never going to guess.
It's a hard guess. It's not easy.
You can tell them you're going to give them $1 million. They'll never get it.
Yeah, it's a hard one to get. It's a hard one
because it's obscure. That's why.
It's like the guy is super powerful, but it's a unique type of power.
It's obscure, and everything will click once you say the name. But until you say the name, nobody would ever guess it or think about it.
Yeah, it's not Justin Bieber, even though I think Justin Bieber would be a bigger DM, to be honest. That like Justin freaking Bieber, dude. Have you ever listened to Baby by Justin Bieber?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
But you know who Justin Bieber is, though, right?
Yeah, it'd be pretty hard not to know who he is.
Okay, but you've never listened to a song by Justin Bieber?
Not willingly, no. I probably heard someone's radio.
Okay, whenever we do our FSD ride, you're gonna have to listen to Justin Bieber. By the way, right before you called, Michael Dell just followed me on Twitter.
Oh, nice. You should get into a podcast where you talk about his life story about starting Dell.
That's exactly what I'm going to message him about tonight.
Nice.
They're like, hey, can we talk about Dell? And that's it.
Yeah, you can tell him that I just bought some servers from him.
Oh, really? Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, yeah, NATO, big deal. I think it's going to be huge for them, and hopefully that helps earnings as well.
I mean, it's not going to help earnings right now, but it's going to be very accretive in the future. It's a big deal.
How much do you think you think it's like a multi-100 million type of contract?
I don't know. I don't even know how to start factoring that. It's going to be a big contract, and I think it's not even so much the base. I think it's going to be one of those things where there's a lot of net dollar retention on it.
Yeah, that's a great point. Like, it's one of those contracts, if it's like a 5-10 year thing where it's going to be juicy SaaS revenue.
The base doesn't matter. Like, the base could be 50 million. It doesn't matter because it could grow into 500 million or $1 billion over time with all the countries and all the upgrades and everything else.
Yeah.
So the initial number does not matter.
And also, all these countries, that's another good point, when they're using Palantir in NATO for whatever use case, they might seriously try to think, hey, what if we could use this in our version of defense in the Europe, the France DOD, right? And that could start some real conversations.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, it's definitely good.
Oh, by the way, Bessent, I don't know if you caught this quote just now. He said, I don't want to make market calls, but I think the VIX has peaked. He said that word for word.
Good.
And that's pretty bullish, right?
Yes.
I don't want to make market calls, but I think the VIX has peaked. Like, come on, bro.
And that's not necessarily a market call. He's just telling you that uncertainty is peaked. That's all.
Yeah, but the way we read it is that's a market call. He's saying, all right, we don't have to keep worrying about all this shit anymore because we're gonna get clarity.
Are you going to be on for a little bit, or are you wrapping up?
No, I'm wrapping up. I got to get out of here.
All right. I will talk to you later. I'm going to lose service because I'm walking through the garage.
All right. Talk later.
All right. Later.
I still can't believe he said that quote, bro. Don't want to make market calls, but I think the VIX has peaked, bro. That's crazy. It's not Lil Wayne. It's not Kathy Wood. It's not Ashton Kutcher. Again, bro, these guesses are not in the right spot. I don't even mean to tease. I think we'll make the meeting happen, but I don't want to say it until the meeting gets done. And so when I go to Miami, we'll try to make it happen. Dude, what would be really fun is if Steve comes to Miami with me. We got to get Steve to come to one of these meetups, bro. He doesn't like flying though, so maybe we do a road trip. Maybe we do an FSD road trip to Miami, bro. It'd be like 15 hours, nothing crazy. Maybe I can convince Steve to do it. He said that? Yes, he said that. He said, I think the VIX has peaked. I mean, dude, bull freaking ish. I'm trying to get the clip of him saying it, but everyone is just like, wow, that is bullish. That is pretty damn bullish. It's not PBD, although I want to meet that guy. It's not Mark. Mark Andreessen's in the Bay Area. He's not there. It's not Dave Portnoy. Dave Portnoy is cool, but he's not. Like, I respect Dave Portnoy a lot, but he's not. I don't know, I wouldn't get super excited about him. Like, he's cool. Barstool is amazing. A lot of respect for it. But it's not necessarily the same. VIX has peaked. I'm trying to get the clip of Bessent saying it. He said it was the last thing he said on the freaking interview. But he said it, which is good. Let me see if I can pull this up. All right, we got to end the show soon. Then I'll get out of here. Oh, by the way, we're not having Robinhood Weekly tonight because Roy is a bit under the weather. So most likely Thursday, we're going to have Robinhood Weekly. So tonight we will not have a weekly, but we will have a daily recap. So we will have that. All right, here's the clip. Here's the clip of Bessent saying it. Here it is.
Yeah, if we measure uncertainty by the VIX, I think the VIX, I don't want to make market calls, but I think that the VIX spiked and is likely peaked.
Literally the last thing he said, bro. Bullish. Bullish, bullish, bullish. It's not Aaron Paul. It's not Lil Pump. It's not Michael Jordan. It's not Ashton Hall. It's not Tom Brady. I don't even know all these people live in Miami. It's not Perez Hilton. It's not Lewis Hamilton. It's not Buffett. It's someone important. It's someone important. But again, I want to actually make the connection before I say it. And the only reason I even brought this up is because you guys kept bringing up Miami. And then I was like, oh, the reason I want to really go to Miami outside of just the meetup is to meet this guy. Because I think a dinner with him would be kind of crazy. Armand, I responded to your super chat. I don't know if we're going to do Seattle, but hopefully in 2026 that happens. Is it Ken Griffin? It is not Ken Griffin. It is not Ken Griffin. Although you're right, he's in Miami, dude. I forgot. The reason you guys are guessing so much is because so many people live in Miami, bro. I forgot Ken Griffin's. There's a lot of people in Miami, dude. I don't think I'm ever moving there, though. I still want to be in New York. But Miami is very exciting. Rick Rubin, that would be crazy, dude. Rick Rubin bought Palantir, dude. You know what's also funny? Palantir was like my first real investment and got me into the world of investing. I wonder how many people that are like celebrities that have always thought about investing but never really done it, and then they came across Palantir somehow. They took a shot on it. Obviously, it's worked out, especially if they got in a year and a half ago, and now they like care about investing. I wonder if Palantir was that like multiplier effect for so many of these people that have the money to invest, but they never had the passion, and then the Palantir community got them into it. It's not Ben Mala. It's not Colby Covington. It's not Lionel Messi. It's none of those guys. It's not Gary Vee. It's not Ryan Reynolds. But I do think Palantir has gotten a lot more people interested in the concept of investing. It's not Paul Tudor Jones. He's in Miami too. Goodness, dude. There's a lot of people there in Miami. Will you interview him? I don't know if he would be down to do an interview. He said he was down for a dinner. I don't know if he doesn't really do interviews. I mean, he's done one interview that was like relatively big, but he doesn't really he's not that public facing anymore. But who knows? Maybe we can get him to do it. This is why we need the studio, bro. We really need this studio. I mean, the Rolodex of connections is starting to grow. The question is getting them locked in to actually sit down and record. And it's just easier if you have a set space because everyone comes to New York. So because they come to New York so often, if I have a space that's very close, I think they would be down to sit down and we would actually do a proper produced podcast. But we got to get this space locked in. We got to get it locked in. So hopefully that happens by August. All right, cool. That's it for me. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate you all. We will have a daily recap in a couple hours. That'll be out. We'll go deeper into this Palantir NATO stuff. As you can see, the fact that Steve called just to say NATO, knowing that this is making his covered calls go even more underwater. I mean, he doesn't care, which is why he's a true Palantir bull, dude. He could act bearish right now about this because of his covered. He doesn't give a shit about. At the end of the day, Steve just loves this company so much, and any true bull, regardless of your covered call situation, is happy to see them get this contract. Because forget the stock. This is just we knew this would happen. And I talked to a lot of people throughout the day, and they were just we've been waiting for this to happen, and it's finally freaking happening. And that's why it's so exciting to see Palantir get this deal. So, yeah, Q1 earnings, May 5th, officially confirmed. I'll be covering it as always. Make sure that if you have anything scheduled, you're free from 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern, because that's going to be a big day for earnings. All right, cool. That's it. Thank you, everyone. We'll be back for the daily recap. No Robinhood Weekly tonight. Again, Roy's feeling a bit under the weather. Thursday, most likely, we will do Hood Weekly. And yeah, that's pretty much it for today. Okay, cool. Thank you, everybody. Love you all. See you guys on the daily recap and then tomorrow on the market open. Bye, everyone. Have a good one.